Good afternoon and welcome to TalkSports, our weekend program, or Saturday Sports Special to be exact. And we'll be discussing, open forum, as we say, the open discussion once a month, and it's our program for the month of October. Could you imagine that we almost towards the end of 2021? Yes, we are. Um, as indicated, the program today will be an open discussion. Lots have been happening within the last few weeks. We have been hearing from quite a bit of folks, and was very provocative with the last 2 weeks. Weekend before, we had the mother of Braylon Taplin. And then only on Thursday, we had the president of the Grenada Football Association, Mr. Chetty Joseph. Thought-provoking comments from Mr. Joseph, and no doubt is a nice segue for us to discuss things as it relates to his plea for some form of sports, recreational sports, or whatever it is to, resume in Grenada. And I'm certain there are those who for and against those arguments. As well as he made the point about an injury fund, yes, an injury fund. And it's interesting because the injury fund is something that, a lot of folks have been talking about, okay? Most so the had to do with the, let me see, I think cricket once, if I'm not mistaken, spoke about the injury fund. It's something that has been discussed at the level of the Grenada Football Association, and even in discussions regarding the national sports policy, the whole issue of an injury fund. Do you think that it's time that we do have some sort of injury fund for sportsmen and sportswomen? Although sports generally played at an amateur level, but the argument is that how do you ensure that there is something in the event of an injury, whether it's basketball, volleyball, football, cricket, that the person who, the victim, as we should say, do not have to go into their own expense. And we know the whole issue regarding, health, health funds, health insurance, etc., and whether or not we think that is a very important, suggestion, something that national associations can really, look at. Probably through the Grenada Olympic Committee again, as Mr. Joseph, he spoke as the president of the Grenada Football Association, but he also has the position of the first vice president of the Grenada Olympic Committee. But it's something that can be a discussion, and certainly whether it's football, whether it's cricket, whether it's basketball, something that they can look at, even boxing to an extent. Which is considered a very physical sport. For some, they call it a brutal sport, But an injury fund, whether it should be set up so that we can ensure that there is some sort of as we can say it, an insurance for those who are actually, participating. I'm certain that any parent will be very concerned about that, ensure that if their, son or daughter is involved in a sport, that there's some, insurance on that, and an injury fund is a nice, thing that I thought that Mr. Joseph brought in the conversation, and certainly it's something that we can, discuss. There are a number of points, in fact, that Mr. Joseph, discussed on the program on Thursday, including something to assist former national footballer Andrew Brother Monroe, who's not doing too well. He understood that he's ill. And, Mr. Joseph suggested that we start, a contribution of at least $1. We had one or two folks who made a pledge. Well, one made a pledge during the live program, and then after there were some other, contributions. People who suggested that they want to make, some sort of contribution towards that. But certainly, it's something that we can look at. So a number of things came up that, and I want to, for those of you who would have missed it, I want to bring some of those things that we can discuss later on, that in case you missed it, as I said, Mr. Joseph brought on the table. Let me see if one of those.
It's unfair to a great percentage of our clubs, almost 50% of our clubs, it might be about 40% of our clubs who do not have a say in our council. And that is because of the structure we currently have. So two of the things I am strongly advocating, and I'm looking forward to us having discussions and the clubs agreeing to, is one, revert to what was a successful program. And this is something which I believe now, in hindsight, you should never do. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? So I believe we should go back to that type of competition. And I also believe that every single club who's a member of the GFA should be given a chance to physically be in every council meeting to debate on behalf of that club and not have someone else do it.
Yeah, I think Mr. Joseph was referring to the whole restructuring of the Grenada Football Association. A lot of discussions and debate have taken place over the years regarding the structure of the Grenada Football Association, especially when it comes to council meetings. And I know in going forward, it will be something that a lot of people will be discussing, especially those involved in football. But I using the bits and pieces from Mr. Joseph's presentation. Why? Because I believe that some of those things are not just football generic, okay? I believe they can be across the board in terms of the whole restructuring, the constitutional amendments, for example. All these things are things that is not just generic to football. There are some national associations, sporting associations, that seriously need to, look at constitutional review. Yes, good afternoon to you, Rudian, and also to Martin Alexander. Hey, Martin, what's happening? I've been looking at some of your posts, and I know you're one of those, like Roger Augustine, who's very supportive of your kids. And, I want to call out your name and Roger Augustine name, that's Martin Alexander, because unlike probably swimming and tennis to an extent, we don't see that many parents that are involved in their kids' participation in sports. And I am saying that outside of the norm of the, swimming and tennis, where the parents basically travel with their kids, I've seen where Roger Augustine, he finds time to be with Shanti, that his daughter, whenever she's competing. Martin Alexander finds time to be with his kids whenever they're footballers. And in the case of Roger Augustine, his daughter is an athlete. But they find time to be with their kids whenever they are competing. And in addition to that, they themselves as parents do the promotion of their kids, which is very, very good, So they basically structure and frame the conversation around their kids and their kids' progress in terms of sports. That is what we want to see. That is what we want to encourage, and I'm certain the day that Martin or Roger not available to be there, that their sons or daughters will do what their parents normally do. Yeah, I want to commend them for doing that. Tracy, hello to you as well, Tracy Crawford, the mom of Amanda Crawford. And hopefully, I want to say a lot about Amanda. Hopefully, Amanda stick around with track. I know some of our athletes have been very despondent regarding how they have been treated. But it's another conversation. Hi, Monique. Yes, good. Monique Jones Gibson from Trinidad and Tobago, but in New York. Good afternoon to you as well. Yeah, it's another conversation we'll have regarding how these, these sportsmen and sportswomen have been treated, and hopefully, we can find, a turning page, I should say. Let's go back to Mr. Chelly Joseph and hear what he has to say again, another piece, and we'll come back again.
Those 1 year budget is affecting our ability to think far, because we are planning and budgeting for 1 year every year. I believe the time has come for the Grenada Football Association to do 4-year budget cycles, so that we can plan further ahead, and that we can not only know where we want to go and how much it will take to get there, but we would also be able to have consistency in training. So, for example, if you had a proper 4-year budget, it means that if you have in mind your national teams are going to consistently be training year round, you can plan accordingly to make sure that the budget, in fact, is in place for those teams. The same applies with your national teams. And if you ask me, Michael, and to the viewers, for those who don't know, part of the reason why the Grenada Football Association has not been consistently participating in games during the FIFA window was simply because we were not doing long-term planning. So 90% of our games we have been playing prior to CONCACAF coming with the CONCACAF Nations League and other competition. It was pretty much you realize you have a competition next month, and a neighboring country, whether it's Trinidad or Barbados or St. Vincent, say, oh, by the way, can we play a game? No, that's not how it should be done. In fact, I am one of those who still believe that, and discussions have started initially, whereby I would like to see the Grenada Football Association to be the first association to bring an African country to the Caribbean as a result of us planning properly ahead of just these 1 year budget cycles, as I indicated.
Chenny, very progressive, Chenny. Chenny is aiming to bring an African team. But I get his point, and I agree with Chenny to the extent that our national teams, and not just football again, should be in regular competition, and not just when you hear preparation for CONCACAF, or if Trinidad or St. Lucia or Barbados ask for a friendly, and then you pull a team together, and things like that. So we should have our national team in regular competition and also playing during the FIFA window. And that is what he's basically saying. And I assume that Chenny, the GFA, has a budget for that. You can't just be throwing that out there, But very progressive indeed, Chenny. And I do, understand and agree with, with what you're trying to, push there. That if our team and if our national team, our national footballers have to move to the next stage, it cannot be business as usual. It cannot be a situation where they are just playing football competitively once every 2 years or just for a competition, but they should always be in competition mode. when there is the FIFA window, the Grenada team, for example, not every time it will be able to play, but at least should be playing. And he's talking about having a proper budget with a cycle and a calendar, etc., etc. So that at least the Grenada national team, senior men's national team, for example, will be playing at least 5 friendly games within the calendar year, just as an example. But these are the sort of things that I think that is needed in terms of our of football, and to some extent our other sporting events, especially basketball, boxing, volleyball. I know it might be a bit difficult for swimming because it's not that you can go and have a friendly, game against another country in terms of swimming, etc., etc. But we need to give our sportsmen and sportswomen the opportunity to compete. If they have to stay above some level of competitiveness, we have high expectations for our sportsmen and sportswomen, though we do have a lot of high expectations for them. Whenever they go to participate, we're expecting them to be at that level, forgetting that those who are they competing against are competing almost year-round, if not, as often as possible, And I think sometimes we miss that that salient point. Another point from Mr. Chelly Joseph, and then we'll come back again.
Is a good friend of mine, but also has served Grenada in every aspect of the game. He's coached at under 15 boys and girls, under 17 boys and girls, under 20 boys and girls, senior boys and girls. So he has coached every single national team Grenada has. He has played for many years for Grenada. He has captained the Grenada national team. And at this point in time, he's going through not the best of health, even though I will say to you and to the general public, I had the chance of speaking with him Saturday and Monday. And it's the strongest I've heard him since I first visited him. And so I am just telling God, thank you for the miracles he's working on, brother. And I'm hoping for a speedy recovery. I am still hopeful that he will, beat all odds and rebound strong. But I want to use this opportunity here to say to every single person who have known brother, every single person who have been touched by him, whether it's a player, the parent, I've read postings about him. I want to use tonight as an opportunity to make a request. And Michael, I'll start with you and I. I'm just asking the Grenadian public, those who are employed or can afford, for $1, each of you, just $1. If 70,000 of us was to give $1 to Andrew Monroe, and you in the diaspora, just $1. I'm not asking you for more. If we can all just give $1, and I will ask the GFA to consider being the organization to receive it. Just go donate $1 in the name of Andrew Monroe, and we will give account monthly on any amount we receive. Michael, I'm asking you to join me in making a commitment, just $1, to make sure that our brother is being treated good while he's alive and not wait to do a eulogy or any other thing. I want him around. We want him around. And I believe if we can raise some additional funds, some of his challenges, we can work towards him overcoming them. I would like for him to be able to see a specialist in the US, but he doesn't have a US visa. If someone is hearing or listening and can also influence the process whereby he will get through with a confirmed appointment somewhere in the US and a visa to get the necessary medical attention needed, we would have done him well.
Yeah, so that's the president of the Grenada Football Association making a plea on behalf of Andrew Brother Monroe, who has played for Grenada. He has captained Grenada, but interestingly, he has coached every single national team. That's Grenada football team, whether it's the under 15, under 17, under 19, girls, women, and men's national senior team. He has given a lot of service to football and to Grenada, formerly of Hurricane, and he's not doing too well. Mr. Joseph is making a plea for some level of assistance. As he says, just $1. The Grenada Football Association will be the custodian of that. We have had Sister Glennis Roberts, who made a pledge already to assist Andrew Brother Monroe in his medical. And Mr. Joseph even went as far as saying that they're also trying to see if they can make arrangements for him to see a specialist in the US. And they have to probably get an appointment. And what we know with all that's going on with COVID, et cetera, that it may be a challenge, but certainly is something that they're looking to get, So if you were listening, please, and you can provide some assistance, please provide some assistance to Andrew Brother Monroe from St. Mark, the parish of St. Mark. He played for Hurricanes many years, national team. He has been around football as a player, then as a coach, and knowing brother, very soft-spoken guy. Not the one who you will get to be on the interview that regular. I've traveled with him, to lots of places before, whether it was in the early days of the Shell Cup, then on to Gold Cup, he was assistant coach, all these things. We have traveled to Haiti, Barbados, so many countries around the region when he was a national footballer, and then as a official, as an assistant coach or coach, and very astute in terms of taking the game and things like that. So so that's on brother. Okay, and I think it was a nice thing to consider in the context of the injury fund that Mr. Joseph brought up. So I will go to Mr. Joseph for that, and then I'll come back and we'll have some more discussions.
Through this budget consultation is also going to be introducing an injury fund for all our clubs. We are going to do that, and every year we're going to add to the amount to ensure, even though it's amateur, and we believe that the clubs they are representing has a responsibility, we are going to put in place an injury fund. It was approved by the executive already, by the way, for players who may be injured. But we also, are working towards encouraging all clubs to have those physiotherapists. But Grenada, again, doesn't have many of those, but we will train persons, whether it's to be masseurs or, persons along that line.
Mr. Joseph, I understood that we do have some, we have some physio. It's just a matter of knowing who they are and using them, right? But I think point well taken, point well taken. Let me see. It is, right. I'm kind of multitasking there. I'll come back to Martin in shortly, but let me go to Toronto and link up with our good friend. Let me go to Toronto and link up with my good friend, Mr. Rudian Sylvan. Rudian, good afternoon to you.
Afternoon, sir. How you doing?
I am fine and nice
It's good
having
to be with
you
you again once more time.
as always. Hoping to have Martin shortly. I will see Martin
Yeah.
shortly. But um, I want to get your views on, those issues that Mr. Joseph raised. And it has to do one with the injury fund. And as I indicated, it's not just football. Yes, he's the president of Grenada Football Association, but I thought it was a very good point being made by Mr. Joseph in terms of an injury fund, bearing in mind that we do not have professional leagues. We don't have professional leagues in Grenada. So when it comes to amateur sport, anything happens, it means that's the end of the person in terms of
Yeah.
participation. And in many cases, they may have to foot the medical bill. In a professional league, you have a setup where there's medical, there's health insurance, etc., etc., etc. So, do you think as it relates to an injury fund? Do you think it's something that is worth the while?
Oh, most definitely. That's why I asked the question to him concerning having a medical staff during games or being a part of just football, because we were talking about football in Grenada, because most injury take place during a game, and a lot of, because they don't have that medical person going to them. Some of them don't know what they're doing, so they tend to do the wrong thing and injure an athlete more than help them. So I think this is good. But one of the things that I really like about that fund I talk about out here in Toronto, and I'm just going to use track and field for an example. We They all pay, every athlete um, pay a fee, but that fee is not that, basically that fee is an insurance. So anything happen to you going to practice or while you're practicing or during competition, you are fully covered. You are fully covered. So that's something that is really good. I know in Grenada, we're not up to that level, but it will be good to also see something like that where every football player who is under GFA could pay a fee that will cover an insurance aspect on them during practice or during a game, and that medical cost that we're talking about couldn't be taken care
Yeah, you know, I think it's understandable. Um, Let me head over to Grenada and hear from my good friend Martin Alexander. Martin, welcome to the program. And, you know, first of all, as I was saying in my introduction, in terms of yourself, and I use you as an example, as well as Roger Augustine, how you folks have been, thick and thin with your kids. It's something that I've seen a lot in North America, where the parents, I mean, in some cases, Rudy, and they get a bit too much involved, but they're always there with their kids, In fact, I'm just kidding on that because I saw somewhere in Long Island, I think a day or two ago, the kids were having, listen, we went to school and we know the little bus up we'll have at times. There was never where parents got involved, but this time I saw where parents got involved. Parents probably were around and they saw their kids, doing a couple of punches and they got involved as well. We didn't know about that. Parents didn't know anything. You have a little bus up and before you leave, everyone friends once again. Yeah, but the point I'm making, Martin, is that the involvement in your kids' welfare, and in this case, I think it's more football, and things like that. So I know your daughter is on the national team, and etc., etc. Roger, his daughter is also is an athlete, a national athlete, and I follow your kids' progress through you. I follow Roger's kids' progress through him on social media, and that's what I'm saying. Using social media for its good. Tell me why you got so involved with your kids' progress. I mean, I know it's a sort of redundant question, but something you might say that a parent might be looking on and figure that it makes sense. Why? Oh, I'm not getting your audio. Somehow I'm not hearing you. No, still not hearing you. Let me see. Yeah, I'm not hearing you yet. No, still not hearing you. Still not hearing you. Let me go back to my thing there. Let me hear from. No, it's muted. I really want to hear you. I really want to hear what you have to say. But you're muted for now. Okay, so see if you can. All right. Hold on. Yeah, I think I'm hearing you now.
You hear me now?
Yes, I'm hearing you now. Let's
Okay.
go. Yeah.
First of all, let me say thanks for having me. To yourself and Mr. Joseph, who I have been in communication with almost, I would say, a week, ever so often. We talk on a regular basis. I reach out to him. He gives me advice. I give him advice and so forth. In terms of the support for my kids, it's not very often you find girls interested in soccer. So my daughter being interested in soccer was kind of like a shock to me, although I know that she probably got it from being around me and watching me play, the regular sweating and so forth. Now, outside of the training that the GFA provide, I realized that there was a need for extra training in terms of for my daughter, because if you look at the competition for females in terms of football, there's not a lot of football taking place for females. So there's always a gap, months upon months. The female footballers will not have national training and so forth. So I had to take it up onto myself to kind of be involved in my daughter's training and so forth. So a lot of the training that she received, has to be done through me. It had to be done through me, myself. Also, in terms of promoting my daughter, of course, we are looking at a scholarship, right? And we know in terms of the output parents have to put out there in terms of money for scholarships in the US. Now, when I sat and I did my research, I realized that in terms of female football, there's a lot of avenues out there, a lot of opportunities for females in the US and other countries. So I decided that, look, in order to get my daughter out there, I have to start to do in terms of some of the promotion, in terms of the videos, in terms of contacting Freddie. I'm sure you know Freddie in the US, Thomas, Wilbur Thomas. He would have been
Wilbur Thomas, right? Yeah.
He would have been very instrumental in advising me in terms of what to do, what I should be doing, in terms of videos, in terms of, getting her out there so that, as he told me, he said, look, your daughter is not in the US. When a coach goes onto YouTube and they look and they type in your daughter's name, they should have something there to represent her, because she's not there physically. They should be able to look at a couple of videos and say, okay, look, she's 11, she's at this stage, she's 15, she's at this stage, and that might just pique their interest and, want to inquire about her. He was telling me that so you need to use social media. No longer you have to, pay money to get the kids out there. You use the avenues that are available in terms of the social media and so forth. Now, in terms of, I've always said to Mr. Joseph, and anything I'm telling you now, I would have mentioned it to him, that I think that the FA can do much, much more in terms of promotion for the kids. For example, I'm going through YouTube a couple of weeks ago, and I typed in this young guy from Jamaica. I can't remember the name exactly, and there was a host of videos there, from the Jamaica FA and so forth, promoting this young man. So the FA, they have come a long way. They have from how it was before to now, but I still think that there's a lot that can be done, because as it is now, it's my kids. I figure that I have to be there. I have to support her. My son is also in the football. I think he would have made the St. George's U13 team, and it's not just my daughter, because I'm also involved in terms of Anglican High School. I support their female program and whatever other female athletes in terms of football. I'm there, I work with Platts in terms of True Rangers. Mr. Joseph Noah, I'm there. I would have purchased a number of equipment, agility ladders, cones and so forth, just to help my daughter, So you have to be the one to be pushing your kids. You can't sit down and depend on other persons to promote your kids, to help train your kids. I might not be a professional, but the little that I know, I go online, do my research and so forth, and try to assist them.
Well said there. And, Rudy, I want you to come in there to comment on that aspect, because you use the Toronto version of the sports and how the parents are involved. And a very important point that Martin made there, which is something we always talk about, and I'm glad to know that he's, doing it as well, using social media for its worth, and, and promoting his kids. But before I bring you on, Rudian, is that correct? Am I correct to say happy birthday, Martin?
Oh, yes.
Okay, right. So happy birthday,
Thank you.
Martin. I should have said that at the start, but I was just reminded. I was just reminded in a text there that it should be your birthday today. So happy birthday, Martin.
Yeah. Sweet 16.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. So Rudian, indeed, very important points made by Martin there.
Oh, most definitely. Especially in this past 2 years of the pandemic. That was a key thing to see parents really involved. I see it a lot here in Toronto, because there was, again, I'm coming to track and field. There was no track and field meets, especially in schools. Even we're not sure we're going to even have this upcoming season. And then how would the kids get scholarship? They have to go on the video. They have to, do their research themselves. So a lot of it is from training, from, doing this kind of speed training with them, doing all this stuff with them. Parents is getting involved because they bring their videos and they just sending stuff out to schools. So parents is very important. The only difference out here than you, Mr. Mann, is that there is a difference in support and involve. And parents tend to get involved instead of supporting. I know you supporting. But a lot out here, we have that quite a bit, where parents want to get involved too much than supporting their children. And I think that creating a big problem. It is a big issue in hockey. It's a big issue in soccer, or football, as we say out here, soccer. It's huge, and we see it a lot where parents want to get involved instead of supporting and trusting the coaches and trusting what they're doing. So I commend you for the good work that you're doing, especially with our small nation that we have. What I would also like to see, just as how you put it, see the administration get involved to help you move those videos forward, help you contact some schools. And I would really like to see that, because again, we have a small nation. Out here in Toronto, we have 10 million people. A huge difference. There is a lot of avenues out here that is just minimum in Grenada, so that the support should be there. And they want to see good for the athletes. And if you want good for the athletes for Grenada, that they can go and better themselves and come back and be a part of a national team, then it's be good to see the administration get involved and support them for a better education and a football career.
Right, and I like that point there in terms of the support, because I try to follow as much sports as possible when I have free time. And I was looking at I think it was the Dominica Football Association, where their Facebook page, they actually will have videos from footballers, from clubs, so they promote, other aspect of it. So it's a point that you're making there, where Martin has his video of his kids, whether it's football or track and field, whatever. Nothing is wrong in the National Association pushing that as well, promoting it as well, even if it means sharing it, because they may have a larger audience, or someone else may pick it up that it's not, in Martin's circle. But the fact is the whole idea of promoting the sport, right? Promoting the athlete, promoting, those who the participants.
And just one more thing is that in Grenada, you might have 2 athletes that is surpass the rest of them that will go forward. In Toronto, you might have 1,000. So you have more time to support the 2 athletes that you have, compared to doing an 11-man squad. You might just have 2 of them that is capable to move on to further their football career. Out here, we might have 1,000. So it's hard for one administration to cover all 1,000. In Grenada, we're small. We should be able to order to push an athlete. We should have soccer and girls 2 athletes going on scholarship every year. Track and field, we should have about 3 or 6 athletes going every single year. And the same thing goes for basketball. We should have the same thing with the support of the system to help them move forward. And if an athlete know that they have the talent, you push that athlete. You look out for the athlete. Like I said, pick up the phone, give them a call, ask them how they're doing, ask them how things going, even in terms of what they need. Try to help that. You can't do it for all, but you can do it for that one or that two that we really could make it. And I think it should be worked that way.
No, I would like to commend the FA and Mr. Joseph that we have seen a lot of improvement in terms of the female football. We know there's always a lot to do still, but there has been a lot of improvement, and we see it in terms of the female team, in terms of their performance so far. I think the last tournament where we had the U17 team, and when I followed the competition, Grenada was supposed to play 3 games, and when you look at the odds in terms of Grenada winning those games, most of them we had Grenada having 60, 70, some of them 80% of winning. Now, unfortunately, the COVID situation did affect the team severely, where we had like at least 14 of the players contracting COVID, and the team had to. They traveled, but with a younger team, we had to, I think was it the U15 players had to go over and represent. They still perform well, right? Now, in terms of the social media presence of the players, be it I am into the female because my daughter is female, so I follow a lot on the female. The FA has made some improvements in terms of the posting and promoting and so forth, right? But I still think that there's more that they can do, in terms of the videos. I know, I think it was last year before, we had two female going out on scholarship. I think the FA would have provided 60% of the tuition or something. I stand corrected, Mr. Joseph probably can correct me on that. No, things like that would encourage your other players. When you see that, okay, the FA sent out 2 players, right? You're thinking, okay, well, yes, I know there's something for me to work towards and so forth. But if you're playing for the national team and then you're seeing like, okay, well, nobody went out on scholarship last year, the year before that nobody went and so forth, you're thinking to yourself, well, I'm playing for the FA and what's going on. So the FA being integrally involved in scholarships will encourage the person. We have an increase in the number of female persons interested in football. You spoke about myself. I want to speak about people like Mr. Lyndon Bob, who is really, really involved with his daughter. We have Bubbles, who is also, I think he's a U20 national coach. His daughter is also into football. Yeah. So what we see happening now is a lot of parents are behind their kids, especially in terms of female football. We have some moms, we have some soccer moms, we have some soccer dads, I'm in the group. The thing is that my daughter is involved in U15, was in U15, U17, U20, and in the senior team. So I'm in there with a number of parents, and we see the parents they're really, really supportive. And I think that the FA has done a lot in terms of to improve on female football, right? There's still a lot to be done, but I keep telling Mr. Joseph it's a work in progress. He can tell you that if my daughter have a game and I go up on the FA site and I see that game is not being promoted, I tag them and I tell them about it. I tag them and I mention. I remember a couple of years ago, we had a competition in Trinidad. And I'm looking at the FA page and I'm not seeing anything. It's like the team played and they lost. I think must have been 13-0 or something. And I'm there and I'm saying, come on, the kids are in Trinidad. They need support. And the kids, let me tell you, the kids love that. As soon as I get pictures of the kids, I send it out to the parents.
Yeah. Well, I think I recall very much so when I think I saw from you photos and videos and things like that. So, and I reposted it. It was from Martin. But an important point that is being made there, an important point that is being made there, Martin, is that, and I'm a song as a Chelly Joseph disciple. We are friends. We grew up together. We went to school around the period. He was a bit higher than me, things like that. So we consider ourselves brothers, from a different mother. We always say that. But very progressive is the thinking of Mr. Joseph, because let me tell you something. One of the things I have noticed, and correct me if I'm wrong, probably Mr. Joseph is the only sport administrator in Grenada who takes it on his own to do promotion of the sport. I mean, you can, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Twitter, and you follow Mr. Joseph, you will see him posting things about the sport. Tell me which other administrator in Grenada, probably, one or two may, a big event, etc., etc. But on a consistent basis, even if an idea, I mean, he was the one who, for example, posted about or talking about the resumption of sports, or just the conversation. He is the only sport administrator, and shamefully too. And the sad thing about it is that he gets so much pushback at his federation, at his executive level. And there's so much about football and the development about football. And they do not even post one single item about football. One single item about football. It's a shame.
If I visit Mr. Joseph's office, or when I visit Mr. Joseph's office, I can tell you that he will put aside about an hour and a half so that we can sit and have discussions about football, about his plans, or, he will always be interested, when I think my daughter would have had a concussion a couple years ago, and he would have reached out to me personally, even when we had our tragedy with our home being destroyed by fire. He called, he would have communicated with me, and he's always been in touch with me, and so forth. If I call Mr. Joseph about something I noticed, like for example, I reached out to him 2 weeks ago, but something I saw that I thought that he should have known. And within 5 minutes, he called me back. He said, "Don't worry, I've taken care of it." So I might get pushback for making a statement. I think a lot of the times, person's personal feeling towards someone, their personal feelings and so forth, get mixed up with for example, the football. A lot of persons have their personal feeling about Mr. Joseph and how they feel about him personally. But when let's look at him in the aspect of football and managing the FA, right? Yes, he might have his points, he might have his negatives, he might have his positives. But let us compare football 10 years ago, 20 years ago, opposed to now. What can we say? Have we seen changes? Have we seen positive changes? I can tell you when it comes to female football, I have seen positive changes. Yes, there are cases or places where there can be improvement, but it's a work in progress. The national team training, I think was 2 years ago, was the first time I saw that the female national team would have been training almost right through the year. Almost right through the year. Look, was it yesterday or the day before? I went on the page and I saw that the U20 team is traveling, the coaching staff, the players, the forward, the defenders, all of that is up. Yes. Let us compare Mr. Joseph work he's doing in football, and let us take our personal feelings out of it, to be very honest. And a lot of the time we let the personal feelings, how we feel about the person personally, and not look at the job that they're doing. That's my view.
Yeah, well, you share my view. It's just that I didn't want to say too much on that aspect of it, but I believe it's what is crippling sports across the board. Too much of the personalities, for some reason they don't like Mr. Joseph. And listen, everyone has their personal style. Their style will be different. So Mr. Joseph's style obviously would be different from another, person. Okay. But what, as you say, let us look at the level. Let's bring it to the level of what is right, what is important, and forget the personality issue. You're asking them, what is the point? What is the debate? And they can't tell you all because it's something personal. And that is what I'm saying. We have to move away from that. We have to learn to agree to disagree. Right. We may have discussions, we may have debate on certain issues. At the end of the day, it's about the development of the sport that we are in.
And I think that the development of sport does be last on a lot of person's mind. And in the debate that they're having, a lot of things come up. And when we look at the development of sports, a lot of the time it's way down the agenda than and that should be top on the agenda. Now, mind you, there are persons that might have valid points. Persons might have valid reasons why they disagree. Why they share a particular view about him or a particular situation. But I figure a lot of the times, and I've been around persons. I've been around a lot of persons who are associated with the FA. Persons have their view, yes. I don't debate. I don't think why you didn't like him or why you didn't like this or why you didn't like that. I just go on my personal experience, and my personal experience as a parent with a daughter associated with the FA, that I find that there have been improvements when it comes to female football. Is there room for improvement? Yes. Do they get it right every time? No.
Yeah.
Right? Their views, and anybody in the FA could tell you that whenever I see something going wrong, I figure that they could do better, I let them know. Whether it's Mr. Alexis, whether it's Mr. Joseph, whether it's whoever's in the office, whether it's Bruce. Just yesterday, myself and Bruce were sitting and we were just discussing something football. But I think persons, for example, okay, let me just give you an example. I might be doing this interview now and just mentioning that persons take it personally and so forth. And someone will sit and oh, he's supporting Chenny and like Chenny, and because of this Chenny and Chenny that. And it's not that. I think we need to respect persons' view. You might get backlash on it and say, oh, you're supporting Mr. Joseph, and just let us respect persons' views and respect persons' choices. Right? Right? Something positive I could say. Right? I've always felt that the teams should have sponsorship. They should have corporate sponsors. And I've seen a lot of teams now involved in corporate sponsorship, right? My son, he liked football and so forth, but while we were staying in Grand Mall, he wanted to start, he passed and saw Fontana United, for example, training. And we pass and Fontana United, and what interests him is they have all the youth players have the jersey with the Fontana United logo. He look at the ball, they have branded ball, and he look at it, he's like, Daddy, I feel I want to go on training point. And he started to go on training with Fontana United. And a lot of the teams you're seeing now, right, they have sponsors which can help them offset the cost of equipment and so forth. I've always felt, right, that I've spoken to the persons running the GBSS. I've shared my view. I've always said to them that, look, the GBSS FC is a gold mine waiting, just waiting. Yeah, so I've always said merchandising for GBSS FC. You look at the population of GBSS. Every year we have like 100 persons graduating. If we only get the parents, the population of GBSS school is 800 plus. So imagine if we get all the parents behind to support the FA team and to purchase a jersey, and not just that, the youth team should be a feeder. And I've always, this is the kind of conversation I have with persons when it comes to football, the way forward, not to sit down and bash and so forth. And I think a lot of the times that's what we concentrate on. We want to bash the person, we want to bash. Yeah, they have their faults. Every one of us have our faults.
Yeah, and by extent. But by extension, I like the point you make about the GBSS, because it should be, as a matter of fact, it should be all secondary schools, I believe, because you always have students coming and going. So whether it's McDonald College or SAS or whoever, it should be a similar thing where, in terms of the alumni, whatever it is, they will find someone or somebody who's very much interested in providing that legacy. Let me just get a point here across. Alana John is saying, well said, Mr. Alexander. As parents, we cannot depend on coaches to get our kids out there for colleges to see them. We have to get involved and be the agents for our kids. At least that is what we did for Nasio. Well, that's Nasio John. So Alana John is the mother of Nasio John, and she's saying that she's agreeing with the point where both you, Martin, and Rudy are making in terms of parents being the agents at this early age for the kids, and showing them, in a way, you're basically showing them that there's a future, and they have the support, because sometimes, remember, kids at an early age in sports may feel a bit neglected, rejected, because they do, especially when it comes to defeat, and things like that. So, and they do not have that sort of support. With the parents there, you can, hey, no, cheer up, I'm here to support you. I'm here for you, these sort of things.
I want to pose a question to Mr. Silva. In terms of opportunities for females, in terms of soccer in Canada, and because I've been doing some research and I'm trying to find a university, a college in Canada that has, a very good program in terms of the league. And so, can you give us some insight into, scholarships for female in terms of football in Canada?
Most definitely. One of the thing though in Toronto or in Canada, they don't give much scholarships, so it's a lot easier going through the United States. If they do give is like a 5,000, which is most it's still tough for a lot of them. They do have some good schools out here, but I always recommend the United States. One of the things that I have, and for anyone who's listening, you could always get my information from Mr. From Michael if you need. I have a lot of connection with schools in the United States, in all sports, and I reach out to a lot of administration. I have contact with presidents of schools, and so I always reach out. I went to university in the States, so my connection is always broad. And then I have a lot of coaches out here also who I reach out to and say, hey, I have an athlete. Do you know a school looking? So if you want to reach out to me in terms of a school in the US, definitely I can do that. But in terms of Canada, the program is growing because of how the Canadian national team is doing,
Yes.
the work they have done to get to where they are now. But in terms of a scholarship point of view, there is not much in the universities out here, only because of the nature of how it is, and that goes for all sports. For track and field, they get about a $5,000 or $3,000 that will just cover books for them, and they have to apply yearly. But you want something where a kid can get a 4-year scholarship where you don't have to worry about anything. And if you have to pay something, it's not as much as it should be. So most definitely, like I said, we could talk about that, anytime, and I could connect you with some schools and stuff, and out there in the region, especially in the United States.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Bascom, I think part of the problem that we're having too is the balancing of the education and sports. We have this mindset in Grenada that, for example, whenever a child is doing exam, that they should not be participating in sports. They shouldn't be training. We should have that child, all step away from whatever training they're doing and only concentrate on sports. Now, I've told my daughter, I said, look, if you get through with a scholarship and you're in the university or in a college, you have to train in the morning. They expect you to go to school during the day and still train in the afternoon. No, if you already have a mindset that whenever you're doing exams, that you should not train and so forth, and you go up there with that mindset, it'll be difficult for you to transition into that frame of mind. And I think a lot of the parents, they still have the mindset that education and sports, you cannot balance it. You should give up one for the other. And that's something that parents need to basically, stop. Where it's like no training because you have exam tomorrow, so you should go training, come home early. It's that kind of mindset, and I think it's hurting the kids more.
Yeah. Let me get some. Oh, yeah. Let me get a comment here from Tracy. Crawford is saying, and Tracy, by the way, I always try to give the connection. Tracy is the mother of Amanda Crawford. Before I understood track and field, I was fortunate enough to have my daughter's principal and coach promote student athletes. As a result, there is a wait list, and student athletes get collegiate scholarships. The relationships do not stop after the athletes graduate. After college, students are employed and give back. Mentoring is key. When one succeeds, we all succeed. Yes.
And I think we're seeing that with Francique.
Well, yeah, that is very important. And we need to get our and as Tracy is saying, as a parent, the principal, the coach, and it's something I was initiating a few years ago, and most recently before COVID, and I think it's more critical now for all our foreign athletes, and by the way, when I say athletes, it's not track and field. I'm talking about the sportsmen and sportswomen, to have a meeting of the minds with coaches, with agents, etc., etc. It's not like Jamaica, the USA, so you're talking about hundreds and thousands, but at least, and in some cases, even the parents, get a feel from those athletes, and again, whether it's footballers, cricketers, whoever, once you representing Grenada and outside, abroad, importantly, in the diaspora, what are their needs, how they can assist, what are their expectations, a whole checklist of what it is and how we can move forward with the sports, As a matter of fact, that aspect of it could have been a part of the consultation regarding a national sports policy, for example. All these things should be taken into consideration, but it fell short. And again, Martin, the point you have been making, sometimes depending on who it is, whose idea, who you speak to, who you tend to how they say, associate with, your point can't go that far. It can't get legs. It won't get legs. And the mindset, I believe, the mindset, the mindset in Grenada, that has to change regarding sports administration, sports development, because and that's why I get the impression sometimes, I don't make those comments publicly, but I read a lot about these comments where people have this mistrust when it comes to sports administrators in Grenada, because it's too much about a boys' club sort of idea, too much
when
about
we look
boys'
at it
club.
too, we keep recycling the same persons, we keep recycling the same people to run these organizations that would have been running the organization for 20 years, some of them 30 years, some of them 15 years. And then, it's like I get the feeling that we are afraid of youth when it comes to running organizations. And we see it across the board, where we figure out that, well, he's too young or she's too young, so we're going to put back in the person that was running it for the last 20 years. And, we see no new ideas we in terms of these organizations. I'm sure if you look at across the board, and you may know better than me, whether it is athletics, whether it's basketball, whether it's netball, we keep seeing the same names around the same organization across the board. And we know that is part of the problem also. We're not seeing youth when it comes to that, right? I'm a teacher, I'm by profession. And for example, we have a lot of technologies being introduced in terms of teaching right now. And a lot of the persons that were teaching for sometimes 20 years, 30 years, they find it difficult to navigate the technology, but that is the direction that we are heading in now. And you can't have somebody running an organization for 30 years, 20 years. It's like we are afraid of youth. And I think that is what part of the major problem in a lot of these organizations. If we look at basketball, I can tell you who has been there for 20 years. Athletics, same thing. Football, unfortunately, when we have Mr. Joseph there now, and he has been there for, I think it's 5 or 6, I'm not sure exactly, but whatever athletic organization we have in Grenada, we have the same set of people. We just keep recycling them over and over and over again. And that is a problem. We are afraid to say it, but that is a problem.
And I'm going to agree. And I'm going to agree exactly what you said. There is no room for the young generation because no one wants to leave their position or groom young people. And that's not only in sport. That's almost in everything in Grenada. And most administration, most jobs too. There is no room. Some people want to stay there until they passed away. And it shouldn't be that way, because if somebody get themselves in some sort of situation, then you can't fill up that gap. It's like you have a manager, but you don't have a second in command. So all you have is a manager, and you always have a manager. So now the manager is gone. Who is in charge? Who can, continue that path or train someone? So that's one of the things that we really have to do. The mind have to change. We as Grenadians abroad, we have to renew our mind. We grow up with this thing about us where it's the same thing over and over. We have to change. And if I am wrong, I've noticed in the past growing up, where the football team, the national team, also be people who lives in Grenada. Now we're seeing that expansion of people outside who have roots. Most of them, like you see the football team, they have roots that is Grenadian. If they
Mhm.
have the opportunity to make a national team and consider themselves as Grenadian, let them. In track and field is the same thing, but in track and field we are losing, you know, and there is so many stories out here from athletes who Grenadians by parents, and when they contact Grenada, they tell them no, we don't know you. You know, and so it's really hard, and we have to change those people in there for a new time. We're in a new time, we're in a new era in life, and we have to move forward. Like just like the COVID time, we can't go back to how we was. If we go back to how it was, we're going to go back in the same situation.
Mhm.
You know, we
Well,
have to move forward and change. So
yeah, well, I agree with that, but I also, push the argument, and I've said it before, that it's not so much about, people don't want to give up their positions, but I think young people need to get involved as well. And I make that point in the context of, um, even at the club level, for example, we need to see young people stepping forward, putting themselves in position, because you can't. At Chenny Joseph didn't just started at the GFA. Now he's first vice president of the Grenada Olympic Committee. Yes, he was a footballer, but he was involved with the Queens Park Rangers, etc., etc. You have to start getting involved. You have to start getting that experience, at the grassroots level, at your village level, your club level. And what we have been calling for as well is for proper club structure. If you have a proper club structure with president, chairman, and whatever it is, and
yeah,
meeting,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you getting the hands on. I see no reason why you cannot move from the chairman or the president of your village level to your national level, whether it's or parish level, for example, and then you move on to the national level, and then you move to the next stage, as Mr. Joseph moved now to the 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 Grenada Olympic Committee, and I'm hoping that he can move to our next level again. I'm supporting him. He can move to the next level. But yeah, I understand the point you're making, Rudian. But at the same time, I think young people also, they have their destiny in their hand. Okay, and I saw it in the. I mean, I don't try to get involved too much in the politics, but
Yeah.
I've been reading that where just I think one of the political parties, for example, the young people step forward, and all of a sudden there have been this pushback. Oh, they have to learn to creep and blah 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 and things like that. So but I'm just making that point as what you said. When
but
the young
but
people
but
do step
you
forward, there is the pushback. And things
but
like
you are
that. So
absolutely right. You're absolutely right. But a part of it too is that they have to open it up for them. They have to have an opportunity. So they have to open up that position so the young people can gravitate in it. You see, because the young people go in based on what they see. They've seen these people there for years, and they're hearing the stories what people talking on the airways and on the streets. So they're listening to stuff. But if you open up that, you say, okay, we have one position opening to train someone, or we have this going on, or even in colleges or in the university, we have a sports management program here for young people to start going in and start going into the courses. So you are right, but it also have to be open up. The opportunity also have to be there for them to gravitate onto it, because sometimes it's not there. It's not there. So if you want to train somebody, so you say like I ask the question, let every club, every sports club in Grenada that's under GFA must have a president. Must have must. And if they have that, then they should have meetings monthly or every 3 months. They should have secretary. They should have meeting taken, and that have nothing to do with the players. Absolutely nothing to do with the players. Some of the players can be involved, or one or two could be athlete liaison, those type of things, but they have nothing to do with them. But they have to be able to build that. And if they don't open up that avenue, nobody is going in. Nobody wants to take part. They have a treasurer. They raise funds. All this stuff on them have to be done, because one, they have to get to games. They have to get the uniforms. They have to. All this stuff have to be done. You cannot always depend on GFA, because the little that you're getting from GFA could only get you far. So you have to have this in them. And just as the way you put it, McDonald College I went to had whenever they have jerseys, people call from abroad all over to get a jersey. That's what we do when they have it. And I think they should do it more often. you know, and then of course, we have the colors that we go to school on, the red, the blue, the green, the yellow. So you want to get your color that you know you wasn't in school, and then it's selling because that's the way it goes. And then you make funding to help move
So,
the
well,
sports forward or the school forward, you know. So
let me
it can be done, but you have to be the opportunity have to be open.
let me support your what you just raised. And I think Mr. Bascom would have known about this. A couple years ago, through the an initiative through the GBSS, I think through the Young Leaders. I can't remember exactly off my head right now. We came up with the initiative of the sticker ties. I'm not sure if you remember that, where we made ties for
Yeah,
different
yeah,
schools.
yeah. The young leaders,
Yeah, the
yeah,
young, right.
yeah.
And just to give you an idea, within a 3-month period, we were able to make $40,000 within 3 months of selling different sticker ties for the respective schools. Now, we were selling them at a particular price where each school was going to get back $3 on each tie that was sold, right? Now, we had to, because it was a duration of 3 months, so after that, we closed the program. You know, not one single school picked up where we left off
After
and
that,
continued. Yeah, and continued after that. And that is, and I'm seeing persons with vehicles now where the tire would have faded or so forth.
Yeah, the decal.
Um,
Yeah.
right, and it's just a small mechanism in terms of the potential of business. Souvenir for schools,
Mhm.
right?
yeah,
To raise funds, even the teams and so forth. I see a lot of the teams now have their jerseys. I have to commend a couple of teams. We have Camahan. When you look at Camahan FC, I see parents, moms, dads with the jerseys and so forth. Rangers is one where we have a lot of that going on. Hurricane, Paradise. We see now whenever Paradise is playing in the stadium and you look at the bleachers, you swear that the players are in the bleachers because you have that support
see,
there. Right? And with most teams now adopting schools, right, especially through the female football, right? So you have, for example, Rangers would have adopted Anikan High. I think Cameroon is doing with college, Paradise, and then is SAS and other schools. So you have the FA now, right? The female football is being run through the schools because that's the only way you're going to get a kind of feeder in terms of female football. But we still not taking advantage of the full potential of that. You know, as I keep saying, for example, GBSS 800 plus, right? 100 and something years old. Anything that Mr. Bascom will tell you this, anything that has GBSS written on it, the old boys will support.
sold
We
out,
have
yeah.
GBSS FC there, and I've told them, and what I'm saying now is not anything secret. I've spoken to the executive of the club, and I've told them you have a gold mine with GBSS sitting there, and it's the same thing you spoke about. You can no longer depend on the FA for the the money that the FA is giving you. There are other avenues for the clubs to raise funds, and I think that is not being looked at.
Right. Good point there. Let's get some comments coming in. Yeah. Lincoln Tour Deputy, young people have to be proactive also, organize, mobilize themselves, and run for office. Antoinette Bristow, good afternoon. Yes, that's very true. Let me see. All right, that's a big one from Claire. He's saying, re-COVID, I need to make a salient point here concerning sporting organizations in Grenada. Most recently, I've heard groups hollering about what government intend on doing concerning sporting events. Why not make submissions of what they would like to see, what are their expectations, and how they expect to achieve what is being put forward? This must be done in writing to hold the powers that be responsible in the event it falls on deaf ears if ignored. Written proposals will, and I assume he'll be adding some more. A 30-year-old just won a seat in Canada's general election. She didn't wait for anyone to open up a place for her. And certainly, Toro. Yes, so young people, they have, as I say, they have their destiny in their hands rather, and they have to, be proactive as well. And it's not always that the older folks or the veterans are, pushing back. But I think sometimes the young people have to be a very, very proactive and very forceful. Well, I don't want to use the word forceful. because that may sound as a coup or
But
revolution,
Mr.
etc.
Pascal,
But
quick question. How many teams have a succession plan?
That's
In terms of, okay, we know that
good question.
they have a president or whatever. Is there anyone below them, that they're training, that they're grooming, that they see as a potential leader that they're going to approach and say, look,
Yeah, the
I am,
mentoring. Yeah.
yeah, I'm not going to be here forever, but I identify you as a potential person. And it goes across the board,
Mhm.
I find that most persons, they don't want a mentor. They want to keep that position and keep whatever knowledge they have to themselves.
Mhm.
And if they have to die with it, they'll die with it.
but even the same thing,
go ahead.
go with coaching too. Exactly, go with coaching.
Mhm.
We don't have that young generation, but as Mr. Bassam, how you put it, they gotta want it. You cannot want it for them. So they
Mhm.
have to show the interest. Yes, I understand in everything that we are saying, because in sometimes we could be two-faced at the same time. We want to see the older generation do something for the young people, but the young people gotta want it. They gotta show the interest. And if they don't show the interest sometimes, so in one sense, they cannot say, well, they're not open for us and they want this and they want that, but yet they're not putting themselves out there. They're not showing the interest so that that avenue can be open for them. So they gotta want it too at the same time. They gotta hungry for it,
Mhm.
and even going back in terms of scholarships, we taking away Canada for because of the way the setup. So everything is mainly worked within the United States. I went to University of Memphis. In the state of Memphis, they have 10 athletes. They have 100 athletes that are running 10 points, or let me just say 10.9. Let's put it as an example. And you know in Grenada want to go to University of Memphis, but you're running 11 flat. They wouldn't take you. You understand me? And even if you're running 10.9, they have 100 athletes that do the exact same time. You have to have something different. And that's what I'm saying. When you find an athlete in Grenada that is, we don't have much that can go on scholarship yearly, we have to find even families will be helping out. Even you see the neighborhoods will be helping out because just that one athlete, the administration will be helping out. I would say that you have one athlete and we do have grocery stores in Grenada, and we do have sports stores in Grenada that not one of them could say, "Hey, here's a bottle of water. You're going to practice today." As support, it will get that athlete continue going and get that continue going. And the neighbor will come and say, "Hey, here's some bananas. Here's some stuff. Eat healthy." To because you're doing so well in the sport to get you better. You understand? A shoe company cannot come out and say, "Hey, here's a pair of shoes." You don't have to give it to everybody, but give it to that one athlete to encourage them so that
Mr.
they will
Silva,
continue on and
just
going.
to just to add to what you're saying, I can tell you that there are a number of secondary schools. They don't publicize it, but a number of
Mhm.
secondary schools I know for a fact provide a lot of support for athletes. Just what you spoke of there. I can speak of the institution where I'm working. I know that we provide a lot of support, be it whether it's in terms of nutrition, whether it's in terms of training gears, whether it's in terms of uniform, school fee. I know, for
Yeah,
example, there's schools that might just waive the school fee. There are schools that might provide lunch for a particular athlete, and there are a number of schools
yeah.
that do provide it. They don't publicize it, right? I know even the alumni, a number of alumni provide a lot of equipment, a lot. Mr. Bascom could attest to this. A lot of equipment for schools through the athletic program. They don't publicize it or so forth, but we have to commend the schools that do that. And you made a valid point of the community and business places and so forth, but we have to commend a lot of the schools. And I'm telling you, they go
And,
provide human service that we don't hear
and,
about.
and, and it is good. And sometimes they have to put it out there so that they can get some help. Sometimes and I get it and I respect sometimes they keeping the privacy of certain things, but sometimes they have to put it out there so that they can get some support. They can get some help from some people out there. Because when you see an athlete and somebody come and say, "Hey, I want to support that athlete, I want to support your school, I want to so they can, because you have this program running out there. And we are in the time now where we have the technology. We have the social media stuff. We have to put stuff out there and put stuff on there and say, this is what we are doing. This is our plan. This is where we want to go. So I think it will help once we happen to put stuff out there like that, and it'll be a great opportunity for a lot of schools, and a lot of sports program in Grenada.
Mhm.
Um, Mr.
Let me
Bascom,
just
I
Yeah.
want to raise a concern that I have, and this is my personal experience. Now, the FA, I remember it must have been a year or two ago, the FA would have brought in a gentleman from a university in the US. I think he's in terms of recruiting and so forth. I think Freddie normally do the same. When he comes down, he interview at least. And I'm just giving you this story to highlight my point. So we had the female team there, and we had the senior, I think the U20 boys team there. And after training, we had this gentleman come, and he was speaking to the athletes. I think they brought back, there's one particular young man that would have gotten a scholarship through that university. He came there and he was talking, and he told them, look, this is my coach that I had in the university, and this was my experience and so forth. The coach spoke. And after he was finished, he asked if anyone have any questions. So Bascom, I think must have been one person out of female team and on the 20 team, one person asked a question. Everybody else just stood there and was like, it's like they don't know what question to ask.
What question to ask?
And yeah, and it's like they are, most of them there, they're playing football or whatever sport, and they're not thinking about beyond the sport. They're not thinking of scholarship. They're not thinking about doing it professionally. They're not thinking about it of like making it into a livelihood. And the gentleman is there, and you can see he's waiting to hear like whatever question you have. And I think one person would have asked a question, and I felt so bad that this gentleman, he came and had a wealth of knowledge in terms of scholarship, what you have to do, how much you have to pay if you need a scholarship, your grade point average in terms of your 10. He gave and everybody just sat there and was like, they didn't know what to ask. So in terms of preparing the athletes for whatever sporting discipline, we also have to prepare them for scholarships. Prepare them what to ask, what you have to do. Because a lot of the athletes, they don't know what they have to do, what is required of them to obtain a scholarship. They don't know that the average has to be above 70. They don't know that they have to go and sit the SATs. They have to sit the SATs. What scores? They can go into a junior college before they go on to university. These are all things that most of the athletes in Grenada don't know. I know, for example, there's a student of the GBSS that he is in Form 5, and we asking him, it's like, what are you going to do? Because he's a very good footballer, and when you ask them and when you speak to them, they don't know. It's like, okay, have you spoken to anybody? Do you know what you have to do? You started to do SAT classes as yet? And these are questions that are asked, and most of the athletes, a lot of the athletes don't know. So we have to also work on them in that aspect, not just the athletics, because you can be the best athlete, and when you go out there, you have an average of 40 or whatever the case, or your attitude is just not right. They have to
Well,
go hand in hand.
yeah, well, good points being made there, and and that is where parents have a role to play, because I realize that in some cases, even the parents are not fully apprised in terms of what is expected. And I recall some years ago where an athlete went about do whatever they had to do, and just inform the parent that, oh, I think he or she, trying to remember, but they got a scholarship, and parent feeling happy about that, a scholarship. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, and for one who hearing a scholarship, you're thinking, well, I don't have to pay a cent, okay? But then, things start adding up, and you have the technology fee, and you have this fee and that fee, and then the parent starts asking, but you said a scholarship. Where am I getting this money from? And and because they did not do it through the right channel, etc., they had to go and seek help and assistance and thing. And I think the point you're making is about having the right information, and that's why we had someone like Joel Phillip, for example, on our program some time ago, who would have been able to impact. And we do have a lot of Grenadians who are in these positions, right? And hopefully through our programs in the future, we'll be able to highlight them and let they bring certain points to the table. And I something that come to mind right away has to do with, for example, don't you know, in Jamaica, to participate in Boys and Girls Champs, your grade must be at a certain level to participate. And there are times you don't see these outstanding athletes participating in Boys and Girls Champ, and you ask a question and you know the answer is because they haven't been able to, because it's a certain level, because they want to ensure that if that athlete is excelling on the track, that right away he is a seller, and a college or university should be able to pick him up right away, should be able to sign him at the end of the race, Let me get some comments here. Mr. Joseph, Chenny Joseph is saying, and that's in response to Cleve Depredine's earlier point. He's saying, Cleve Depredine, the government of Grenada and the Ministry of Sports are in possession of at least three major proposals from the from the GFA that we await a response. The same also has been submitted to the Stadium Authority regarding a proper proposal that will impact sports in Grenada. Let's get one here from Mr. Depredine. He's saying, that's Lincoln, we have to avoid further promoting this sense of entitlement and pampering young people. It used to be you got a prize in school for coming first, second, or third. Nowadays, you just have to show up, and at the end of a competition, you get a prize for also ran. Graduation used to be a big occasion for finishing a course program with certification. Nowadays, there's graduation for kids in preschool and all. Yes. And Chelly Joseph is saying, Mike, I genuinely believe your two guests can start a revolution on moving the sports to a next level through their enthusiasm and passion. Jenny, I'm just afraid of the word revolution. In that context, you might say they're anti-sports or they're anti-this and anti-that because, whatever. But I get your point. Tracy Crawford, again, mentoring is key. With proper mentoring, when the opportunity arises, the mentee will have the resources to rise to the occasion. We do not just need athletes, we need accountants, journalists, coaches, physical therapists, fundraisers, uniforms, mental health counselors, and the list is endless. Torres is saying sports as a career and sports as a business should be added as a curriculum course, starting at primary school and continuing through to the secondary level. And it's so much important, especially in the Caribbean and probably to Grenada to an extent, where sports as a career, why not? Sports as a business, why not? Mm-hmm. Because, I looked at so many of our, and in those cases, athletes, and particularly track and field, and to some extent basketballers who would have gone on sports scholarships. And when you look at their major, it has to do with something sports management, sports whatever, something sports related. I don't know why, but that it is. I know many of sports business, whatever, they major.
Well, you're not wrong on that, because I did sports and leisure studies, so I was in sports too. So, right. And make it worse than that. I end up becoming a teacher for 17 years. Teaching was never my, I'm not teaching no more, but teaching was never my thing, right? But I get your point on that. And one of the things I do to even in terms of education with my athletes, I have coached guys in the past, but most of my people that come to me is a lot of females. And I always bring in a female athlete. The one I was bringing is a young lady out there called Tabia Charles. She went to University of Miami. She holds the Canadian triple jump record. Or maybe she holds the top 2 triple jump records. And I always bring her in to talk to the athletes. And one day when I'm meeting, I'm not there. So it's just them alone, and they ask the questions, and she's very impressed with the questions that they're asking, the concerns that they have, and it helped them to move forward. It helped them to do better in school. It helped them to want a scholarship. It does help, So when you bring in somebody, especially a name that they know, they hear the name Tabia Charles, it's been out there around. So when you bring in somebody in that mentor concept, just to have a little meeting with them, maybe twice in the year, and you could see the big difference in their performance, in terms of how their attitude towards the sports, they want scholarship. Those kind of things have changed.
Mm-hmm. Mr. Bascom, I just want to ask in terms of the coaching and certification of coaches. Most of the athletic association I'm not sure if they're sending young persons to study in terms of the certification and so forth. And as Sylvan pointed out, that he would have done whatever area he did, but he chose to stay in Canada, right? So a lot of the times the persons are even going away and becoming qualified, but not returning to impact, because, Mr. Sylvan can probably tell me is that the salary, it would be, you know, him thinking about the salary that is provided, he can make more money across there than he can make in Grenada. So even if we look at sending persons, we have to create an avenue where persons want to come back, right? I always talk about Francis. If Francis were to come to Grenada and decide that he wants to coach or so forth, what is there for him? What is his benefit besides loyalty to Grenada? I want to give back to country. Outside of that, what is there for you? So we spoke earlier about young persons stepping up. But yes, young persons stepping up. But what is it? What is there for them? So you go out there, you study, but you realize that it's better opportunity in other countries. So we decided to stay. So and you see, coaches are cert. Let's say a coach that is a cert 1 or cert 2 can only bring you to their level, right? So we always at a stage where the athletics or the football or whatever area. For me, I could only teach my daughter what I know, and there's a lot that I don't know. So I know that we have to get a professional to help her, and I think that's a lot of times that the main problem in Grenada, in terms of coaching and not just coaching, higher level coaching, because you have athletes that are good here, and our teams or football team, they look good compared to in Grenada. But when they travel and you see their performance, where they're performing against coaches at a higher level, what we call in football, your old coach. So there needs to be a program from all of the organization to get their coaching or their staff or whatever the case is up to that level, international standard. There are some persons you have to agree that they are at an international standard, but we need to get a lot of more young people. I think the FA has a program or so forth. If I'm not mistaken, I think a couple of the staff at the FA would have been persons who would have gone and studied basketball. I'm not sure. We have, I think, Carl Lee. I think Lee would have just graduated.
But no, he's still in the program. He should be graduating.
Still in the program.
Yeah.
But he's involved in the FA. But we don't have that. We don't have that. If we want our athletes level to rise, coaching level has to rise. You cannot expect the athletes to pass the coaching, right?
And I agree with you. And I agree with you 100%. I mean, in spite of everything, I have coach athletes. Besides the past 2 years, I haven't had an athlete go on scholarship. Prior to the 18 years I've been coaching, an athlete go on scholarship every year. I have successfully coached athletes who come to the program who end up becoming Olympians for Canada. We have one right now still competing for Canada, coming from our program, who is at the Olympic Games. And through our program, being a part of that, we had about 6 athletes who've been to the Olympics for Canada. I have my levels of coaching. I don't have up to level 5, but I have up to level 3 of my coaching out here of the Canadian part, not IWF, or the Canadian coaching levels. So I have that.
Let's say the Canadian model.
The Canadian model, yeah, Canadian model. I think once you get to level 5 here, then they kind of send you out. But they don't have the classes. One of the problems out here too, they don't have the classes. And if they do, it's so far away where you have maybe 60% of the coaches who want to get a levels is from Toronto, but the program is in British Columbia, so it's kind of far away, when they do have it. But right now they have no classes coming up anytime soon. So it's just hard for us to finish up, for me to go on to get my level 4 and then continue on to my level 5. But that's one of the things too. And again, come back to what you were saying, the athletes got to want to. So they have to have some sort of program in Athletics Grenada where they say they are sending coaches to get their levels who want to be a part of it, and then let us see the numbers. And if it's too much, then they have to break it down to how much they want to send to whatever avenue they're going to do it through to send them out. But they got to want it, and they have to get quality coaches. I coach because I love coaching. I don't get paid for it. I just love coaching. This is my way of giving back to the sport. I started in Grenada. I went to a primary school. I run track. I went to Macon College. I run track. I moved to Canada. Same thing. I'm from Canada here. I get a scholarship to the United States, and I just give back to the sport. I give back. Somebody come to me, want me to coach. I'm going to coach because I love the passion of coaching. But that's just me. Other people have to do it as a career. Other people have to do it as a funding. I still have a job. So I balance both of them very well actually, because of the scheduling. But everyone don't have the same opportunity as I have. Some people have to do it as a career. They do it. I know coaches out there, they have to do it as a career because they cannot do both. And the opportunity is not there for them to do both. So you have to want it, but giving back is something that is good, even if it's in knowledge or just giving them some tips or giving something. They have to want it, because one of the things too Sports Grenada have to do, they have to have a mailbox where people could send in ideas, and they have to look at those ideas and not brush it away. Look at those ideas, because something in there they might want to change. Something in there might help them. So take the ideas. Sports Grenada, not only on specific, just Sports Grenada. Have a mailbox. People send their ideas in and open it up, because that idea can change the rotation of Grenada. That idea can change certain things, and that's what I think.
Well, probably you mentioned a mailbox, but in this digital age, let's call it a digital mailbox.
Yeah, that's what I'm and that's a mailbox. I don't mean an actual mailbox, but I mean,
I understand. Yeah.
a platform.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, a platform where they can, feedback and suggestions. But again, it must be receptive, because many times, you may make suggestions, you may make comments, and again, as Martin said in the starting, and you all said in the starting, is because they take it a bit personal and you become a bit anti. Let me get some comments. Oh, and Clevis, I think, is referring to the initial comments from Jenny. So yeah, we're going back to that again. Where is the principal organization as it relates to restructuring Intercall? And he's saying, for example, other organizations presently on ice. Why is it always government and not the governing body of those organizations? Push and shove before hollering to the deaf. Jenny, bring it to the eyes and ears of the public, not to embarrass anyone, but to hold them responsible. Jenny, something to what you did concerning the Kirani Boulevard development, sitting on a clustered desk somewhere. And Jenny is saying, Mike, can I have the views of the two gentlemen on the establishment of an elite sports academy here in Grenada, involving all our elite talents in every sport in Grenada? Starting with you, Rudion. The establishment of an elite sports academy in Grenada. Your views?
Honest truth, it sounds good, but it's a hard one. It's a hard one to swallow. It is good to have an academy to bring in great athletes, but I don't think we have the athletes, enough athletes of that level for an academy. We do have athletes who have the skills, and forgive me if I'm disrespecting anyone. I'm not trying to. I'm just trying to see it from my point of view. I look at cricket in India, and I'm just going to use that for an example. Yes, it's a bigger country in terms of numbers, how much billion people they have, but in their academy they have wicket keeper, and that could be 100. They have batsmen, and that could be 100. So they have that they can actually do that. So I think it could be nice, instead of an academy, the way it's more into like a sports school. If it's kind of starting out small with the sports school. I see a few of them out here where you have to, is only specific, it's a sports school. So it's like a high school, but it's for athletes. And because it's so big out here, it's not every athlete that go to that school, because it's not free. You have to pay to get into that school. But something like that, even starting from a very young age. But in terms of that academy, in terms of our numbers, I don't think we have the numbers to expand on that, brother, unless we want to say let's start with the grassroots and then go on. That is my take. I can be wrong. but I will want to listen to your ideas.
Yeah. Sebastian, your mic is on mute.
Yeah, the academy may sound a bit, as they say, quote unquote, highfalutin, but I understand the concept, the choice of academy again may sound, because you have to think about resources, and sometimes you say academy and you think about the building, the structure, physical this, that, and the other, and things like that. So,
And that's where I was going. So
right,
again, that's why I was
yeah.
very careful
So
with
it
how
may
I'm bringing
be
it. So
right,
I like I say, you start grassroots. There is a few athletes that you're bringing in at a younger, young age, and then you grow them because you identify, or maybe identifying athletes might be a better word, and then you put the time and resource into them.
okay.
That could be a little bit better in a sense, yeah.
Okay, so
Now,
right, so we understand the concept. So, Martin, but importantly, and especially for someone who is in Grenada and living in Grenada, in terms
it's
of the talent pool, the resources, all the support structure, all of that, you think it's
um
something?
Sebastian, I think St. Lucia
Yeah,
has
yeah,
such
yeah, they,
a
yeah,
school
yeah, they do
where
have one. Yeah,
it's actually a school where the athletes attend
yeah,
on a daily basis, whether it's whatever discipline they identify for, whether it's football, cricket, and so forth. So St. Lucia is doing the same thing. I don't think there's any difference between terms of the population of St. Lucia and the population of Grenada. Now, I'm going to give you a country that is doing it and it seems to be successful. Haiti. In terms of female football, I've been following Haiti. Haiti actually has an academy for female footballers where they go, they do their normal school and so forth, but all they're doing is football. And we see it be, we see the rewards. Haiti is I think they're number one in the U15, U17, and 20 and senior team, I think, in the Caribbean, excluding the US. So it can work. Now, in terms of a physical building, it might be difficult in terms of finding the resources to have a physical building where you have students coming in, because, in terms of the money, the resources there, you're going to have to pay staff and so forth. I'm not sure if that would be feasible. No, but at the same time, if the different organizations, whether it be the FA, the Amateur Athletic Association, all of them come together and pool all the resources together, maybe they can do something like that. But one organization trying to do it individually, it might not be feasible. But if they come together, you might have to look at it as Sylvan said, might not be a physical building, but might be a program where you have all your elite athletes going into that program where you provide, whether it's nutrition, it's equipment, or whatever the case is, and you have all the coaching and so forth. So you might have to tailor it to suit Grenada, but it can be done, and I'm thinking that it should be done.
well,
And one of the things, just
well,
one more thing, too.
well,
One of the
well,
things we have to look at, one of the things we have to look at is facility. That is a key thing, because wherever they are, they have to be able to do that specific training or whatever they have to do. So facility is a key thing too.
Because Sebastian, didn't they try that with the cricket?
Well, you had the cricket academy at the St. George's University
Right. So
some years ago.
so
But
there's
as Toro is saying, not only the numbers, but don't think any one of the islands could financially sustain an academy. That's the whole issue. Perhaps a Windward Islands Academy or an OECS Academy, and as you rightly said, we had the Shell Cricket Academy some time ago that was funded and housed at the St. George's University. But then with the whole issue with Shell and sponsorship, I think it's now where Barbados has something. I think there's one in Antigua, etc., etc.
But we
Yeah.
could tailor it to suit Grenada, right? I'm thinking that we could tailor it to suit Grenada, where we have it probably. Okay, let's look at what we presently have. We have, and we'll talk about football. We have a number of persons having their own personal academies, right? So you might find the Just Sports Academy in Tantine. I think there's an academy in Granans. I know Jake Rennie has an academy in Grenville.
Pulse, yeah.
So
Pulse,
when you look at football, there are a number of academies that cater to different age levels, right? Of course, these academies, the parents are the ones paying, right? So what you can do is probably have, if the FA decide that they want to choose a particular academy and run their program through an academy that is already established, that where the FA wouldn't have to invest in terms of equipment and all that kind of thing. The Athletic Association, I know they have a lot of equipment. So again, we could tailor it to suit, Grenada. It doesn't necessarily have to be a building where the students have to go there, and then it's not just the academy in terms of the athletes, in terms of the training. We also have to look at the academic side of it, right? Where we look at, we have a system, we have teachers having after school with the students, following up on the grades and all that. So the academy has to cater for the academic and the sports side of it. But I think financially, a building, a physical structure, and that would be a bit too costly. But it can be done through these different academies, because I know of some schools that run their programs through the individual coaching academy, right? I think Track Blazers, a lot of St. David's Catholic athletes go through Track Blazers. I think Bascom. We have, I think, GBSS, the football goes to Just Sports, and it is working in some schools, right? So it can work, but we just have to tailor it to suit. It doesn't necessarily have to be a bill.
Well, yeah, and the point you're making there too is that, for example, we could use what Fontenoy United did a couple of years ago, that we can probably call an academy. And I say we don't want to use academy in the context of, as you say, most time when you say an academy, people get the concept of a physical building, a classroom. Mm-hmm. What Fontenoy United did a few years ago was what you can call the aspect of an academy, because it was not just football, but was ensuring that the players, they sat the exams, mm-hmm. and many of them went on to scholarships. They got scholarships. They went on to universities, and in many cases, they are
and so forth.
A master's degree, graduate degrees, some of them too, mm-hmm. and things like that. So, and it was a program that was part of the Ram Folks initiative, and mm-hmm. we can call it an academy in itself, because they played football. Mm-hmm. Some of them national football, some didn't play national football, but at the end of the day, it was a balance between sports and academics. We even had some of the females also. Mm-hmm. Also, there's not Andrew, there's surname, just slipped me there, but Stevens, yeah. She's one of those who played netball and played some women's football to an extent, and other sports, and she also benefited from that. So
let me
think it's that. Just before you go, Sylvan, just before you come in there, this point Chenny is making, I believe this can work in such a way that, as suggested by Sylvan, Wesley College can be targeted as an institution where these kids at high school entry age are placed there, and our coaches and teachers focus on these kids. Go on, Sylvan.
There's two things. So then if you do that, as I said, Wesley College, just say I use Wesley College for an example. Now, you have to have the coaches. So you have to have professional coaches, for one. Then you have to get the teachers. So they have to have the link in between both of them. One example, out here I coach, one of the schools I coach at is not identified as a sports school, but they have a program where a lot of students coming from different part of the city and apply to get into the school. So if an athlete coming into that school for track and field, they don't come in that first year, they don't play track and field, because they're coming into a specific sport. If they come in for hockey, they cannot play hockey. They come in for soccer, they cannot play soccer for the first year. Now, if we have this program in Grenada, and we're talking about high school age, just leave it as high school age for one now. Do they get to compete in intercol or any of the football team? Or do that school now be involved in the school sport? Because now they are elite training, which the other athletes is not on the same level. So do they get the opportunity to compete or play? If it's cricket, if it's football, if it's basketball, track and field is different in a sense. It's just speed, in my opinion. It's not necessarily meaning the training you get. But it does those sports itself. Do they get to compete? Because they have the type of training that the other kids don't have. So do they get to compete? Because out here, most competition come from schools than sometime in the summertime. Same thing in Grenada. You see, and I know they have the school sports, then they have little sports here and there, but how do they get to compete? How do they get to play if they don't have the chance to play with a team with that school? And are they going to identify if somebody come from left McDonald College and go to this program? No, are they part of McDonald College, or are they a part of that school that institution that they're going to be a part of? So it sounds good, but there's a lot of little things in between that we gotta look at. And competition is a key thing. And if they don't get to compete, but they are in that program but not competing, then what's the point?
Let me see. Let's was I to say, Martin. It is great to hear from you. And let me see if I can add Fernando John. Fernando is in San Antonio, Texas. We get in the black spot. Okay, so Fernando is joining us just for the next few minutes. Fernando, I'm certain you have been listening to the conversation from these gentlemen, esteemed gentlemen, and their comments. Certainly, from your vantage point there in San Antonio, Texas, and a parent yourself, a coach also, you have some agreement, I will say, with the conversation from both Rudy and Martin.
Actually, afternoon to everyone. I actually agree with quite a few things they're saying. It's a very intriguing conversation to think about it. I do agree with somewhat the idea of the academy. We look at numbers. We shouldn't look at numbers because Grenada has the smallest percentage of numbers per capita that got a medal in the Olympics. So clearly we can hang with the big boys. So I don't think we should really look at the numbers in terms of just get the kids together and give them the chance because we are blessed with talent. We happen to be blessed with talent in a number of sports. So I really think we should look into that academy thing and let's get it out there. It could not hurt. It literally could not hurt when you have a little team like St. Vincent and they have that, I think it's Ida track club. That. And they send away so much athletes every year on scholarship. But we don't do that. Why?
Probably the gentleman listening may be able to answer the why. Martin is at Martin is in Grenada.
I don't want to speak for I don't want to speak for clubs in Grenada. I don't want to criticize anyone, but from my observation, a lot of the clubs, a lot of the coaches don't have that link with the US or whatever country is providing the scholarship. A lot of the coaches, they're coaching, as I said, they're not at a level, a high level. And Sebastian, we have to be realistic about that. That's one. In terms of making that link, so okay, you have a top athlete. Let's say you have a top athlete as a coach in Grenada, right?
Yes.
Are you doing your research? Are you planning in the next 3 years? Okay, I know she'll be graduating in 3 years' time. Where I want her to be? Am I looking for potential schools? Am I looking for potential scholarships for her outside of the parents doing it? Does the club have a staff that deals with that? Do they have persons outside it that they could contact? For example, and I'm just going to use one club as an example in terms of football. I know that, for example, Cameroon FC, they seem to have something going on through whatever contacts they have outside of Grenada, right? I know, Sebastian, you mentioned with Fortuna United and Mr. Ram Folks, what he would have done. Now, outside of Ram Folks, that is no longer there as coaching with the team, have we seen any athletes or footballers from Fortuna United going away on scholarship? Or any club?
No.
Right? So there is not that linked. I'm not sure if most of the coaches know, exactly what to do. But that aspect of it is lacking in terms of planning also. I know I have to say kudos to Rangers. They have a program where I know that they work with their footballers to get them out there after they leave in school. But most of the times, the school also, a lot of the times, the school also, they are guilty of just using the athletes and just discarding them after they leave school. So a lot of them, you don't find there's a plan. There's a plan to say, like, I identify this athlete. So in the next 2 or 3 years, I'm looking for a scholarship for the athlete. I don't want to come down on any club or any organization, but from my observation, that is lacking in terms of the as we call in Grenada, the links.
Okay.
Well, yeah, and and I remember in the early days we had a very heated argument with some people. And in the case of, for example, like Kirani James, the question was asked, if Kirani had stayed in Grenada, what would Kirani be like now? Okay, would he have had that sort of opportunity, the opportunities he had, the level of coaching, and again, no insult to Albert Joseph, because Albert Joseph is a very excellent coach. But we're talking about bringing a person to the next level. The ability or the opportunity to compete at a higher level, etc., etc. We don't have at the time. We didn't have that in Grenada. So many things, as you say. So sometimes we have to think outside of the box. We have to think, as you say, whether the school's looking at the potential of the athlete and where that, and when I say athlete, whether it's a footballer, basketball, whatever it is, where that person can be probably in the next 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, things like that. So, and I think that is very important. Guys, I know we're short of time, but I'm letting you know that we do have a bonus because Fernando joined us a bit late, and it seems as if folks are very much interested in what you guys are saying. The comments are coming in. Let me get that, and then I'll ask you another question. Basketball has several players overseas studying at the master's degree level, accounting, business administration, finance, etc., etc. Yes, as we were saying, and again, not all of them in sports administration, but Martin was making a point. How many people and how many scholarships? That's what I was trying to get at when Martin made that point. Year after year, we'll see not sports, but scholarships being afforded, academic scholarships being offered, right? To China, to Mexico, blah, blah. Probably even to Cuba, medical, etc., etc. And the question is asked, how many in that are related to sports? How many? Whether it's sports medicine, whether it's sports this or sports that, very few, if ever, and more in most instances, are students who will probably go on get their personal scholarship, whatever it is, and then decide what they will major in. But for an athlete leaving Grenada through organized scholarship, whether it's government or whatever it is, and going to study, whether it's sports medicine, whatever. So at least we know that 4 years from now, it's an investment. 4 years from now, 5 years from now, Martin Alexander will be, a graduate in sports medicine and someone we can have for the talked about sports academy, and things like that.
Bascom, just to add on to that, do we promote the other aspect of the sports besides telling an athlete you can be a footballer that can play in the championship? If that athlete falls short and is not a professional footballer, do we promote the other aspects, the equipment manager, the nutritionist, the physio? And these are all jobs that are well paid. Well paid, and we have the athletes. We're thinking that if you're not a professional footballer, that there's no other area that you can get involved in, like even the coaching. Do we promote that?
Well, a good point, because Miss Carol Beckford was on the program, I think it was a week ago, and she was making the point about the career options in sports, because everyone will think about being a footballer, being a track athlete, etc., etc. But and Fernando, you may be able to come in there with that, because I know you were in Africa just recently, and obviously, you know, when we go out there and we meet these athletes and elite, well, in this case was junior athlete, but we see the entourage that normally will accompany, whether it's a physio or this and that, you know, and in some instances, as Carol was saying, you know, one athlete, one sportsman, one sportswoman at the professional level will have an entourage, including a lawyer, a legal person, you know, a this and that and the other. And as you're saying, Martin, is all aspects of, you know, career options in sports. Fernando?
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with you on that, because when you think about it, you send an athlete out there. How many coaches actually took a coach in injury prevention? Even when you do get injured, how many coaches know how to help rehabilitate that athlete? If we out in competition, we may not have a doctor, but those are things we should actually get into. When we go within the sporting arena, like you said, we see one athlete and we have 5 people. Some athlete may be suffering an injury and they just need some help getting ready to compete on that day. So there's so much more you can do besides just being an athlete or a coach. The background, the nutrition, making sure. One of the things we had when we just came to Costa Rica with Nazio and Hallie, the nutrition was horrible. And we, like Coach Michelle and myself, we find ourselves actually having to go buy food to give them the proper nutrition to get. And they could not compete at the best level because the nutrition was just dreadful. So do we have people with the knowledge that knows, you know, these are the things that's needed? I don't think we do. Perfect example, like I think one of the gentlemen said about Coach Francis. Why is he coming to Grenada? They're not going to pay him for what he's doing. So why not give him the opportunity to come back and help develop the sport in Grenada? Far too often we are losing our athletes and our coaches to outside countries who are willing to pay. Sometimes not necessarily the amount they're paying, but the initiative of actually compensating the coaches for what they are doing. We don't do that, and that's something that we need to start working on.
Do we see the importance of these different areas?
I don't think they do see the importance of it, but it is there because, perfect example, me being in Nairobi, where the temperature was a lot cooler than I expected it to be. I remember one morning I got out in my shorts, I went out there, and it was cold. I had to go back in and put on sweats. So when we're sending our athletes to these areas, do we actually focus on the temperature is going to be there, the time of the year? It may be summer here. You go to Australia, it may be winter, or South America. It's a lot. If you're at altitude, it's a lot colder than we expect it to be because we're thinking it's a warm country.
Preparation.
It's going to be warm. Preparation. Exactly.
When I say the importance, the respective sporting organization, do they put emphasis on these positions? For example, as I said before, I looked at the GFA sending the U20 team to whatever competition, and I see there they have the physio, the equipment manager, the team manager. They have to have an entire team of persons there, right? Do we put emphasis on those positions? Do we have it as important?
Yeah, that's the thing. Make it the importance of that.
Of it. Or do we only look at it when the team traveling, we decide that, okay, we need an equipment manager. But for the rest of the year, only when the team in competition, we know that, okay, we need a physio. Do we have a physio there? Do we make it important? That's what I'm looking at. Because if persons see that, okay, the national team, they have an equipment manager, and we know, and they see for persons, money is a motivator. Money is a motivator, especially for this youth. So if a young person knows, for example, that, okay, the equipment manager for the national team, for the athletics, they're getting $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, it might inspire the person to want to do that. And not just that, outside of Grenada, and Mr. Bascom, me and you, we follow a lot of sports, and I follow, for example, NFL. And when I look at each individual player in the NFL have a personal trainer. So we're looking at 30-something players, multiply that by 20-something teams. They have a personal trainer that they be using during the season and off season. That's employment right there. You understand? So we need to have that conversation with the young person, show them the importance and the career opportunities as available, and not only in Grenada, mind you, not only in Grenada, but outside of Grenada.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you. But the thing is, that's like Mr. Bascom said, that's part of preparation. How much how much emphasis do we put on those people in preparing for a games or Olympics or World Cup or something? It takes years. And if you have those people in there over the years and you have a structure, the athletes, you'll get a whole lot more from the athletes than you do as you just pick them up 2 weeks before and you send them out there. Do you
Well,
have nutrition throughout the year that the kids follow? I know my
well,
athletes that I have here, there are certain things they know you can't eat, period. And if you eat that and you come to practice, or it's going to be the devil to pay. So they know that.
no, and good point you're making there too. And it may come back to the initial point that was raised regarding the sports academy. Yeah, and again, we forget about the academy in the true sense of a building or whatever. But learning these things, for example, our athletes, our sportsmen and sportswomen now are traveling more than ever. Well, COVID may have interfered a bit, but let's use football, for example. So many national teams and they're traveling. And then when we have track and field, we have large teams traveling to carry out the games, etc., etc. Do these, and every time they go, probably it may be some new kid on the block, eh? So they're traveling probably for the first time, etc., etc. Do they know how to conduct themselves? Do they know how to eat properly? Do they have, the proper table manners, whatever etiquette, etc., etc.? Because they're going into a different environment. They're going into a hotel,
Protocol.
all these things. And again, these are the things, and they may be just the athletes, the sportsmen and sportswomen, but similarly, we have the administrators themselves or the officials, how do they conduct themselves in the presence of these young kids, and so many things that is really needed. So it may go back to, as you were making the point, where at the local level, whether it's the village level, the club level, why not having someone who is learning the basics in terms of first aid, physio, the equipment manager for Fontenoy or for Latas or whatever. So when Latas is playing or going and play whoever it is, you have a structure in place where not the coach running onto the field, with a spray can, to spray a man ankle and thing like that. So, but someone who understands what they're doing. Okay, he may not be a doctor, but at least he has an idea of what he is doing. Okay, not the coach pulling all the balls behind him, and things like that. So you have an equipment manager, and by extension, that person may move from the equipment manager or the physio of Latas to the equipment manager or the physio of the national under 17 team, or whatever. But there's a progression, and by extension, probably some level of certification to know that the person is certified to do whatever they're doing, and things like that.
Mr. Bascom, just to add something, the importance of what you spoke of, and I can speak to my personal experience. The national team had a practice match in Grenville, and my daughter she got kicked in her head. And because having the right persons around, because it's only now we know about concussion protocol. Before you get knocked in your head, you fall down, you get up,
you get back up and you probably continue.
And
you take a forensic.
Yeah, and because the right persons were there and knew what to do, I think she ended to make the story short, she ended up in hospital and she had to follow concussion protocol. I knew about it, but didn't know exactly what to do. And it speaks of what you spoke of, because having the right persons there, right, and knowing what to do, Normally, we would have just said, okay, well, you get up, you're okay, and say yes, and then just send them back on the field. But them knowing the dangers of that and so forth, and you must have the right persons around that knows what they're about. So just to reinforce your point.
But the question is, do we have these people right there in Grenada?
Well,
Do we have these people who live outside of Grenada who is willing to be part of that?
well, yeah, but
Give the
we
initiatives
may
to
not,
them.
initial we may not have, but Toro made the point earlier. Again, it has to be about people willing and the initiative, and and being, want to be. If you want to be part of it, I'm certain there are folks, or there. Well, in the case of the GFA, I know Mr. Joseph on the interview on Thursday was speaking about a plan to get more masseurs and physiotherapists and people at least with the basic knowledge, so they can be around to assist and things like that. So, but it also has to be that people are willing to, and it's not just, as Toro said, entitled, that they figure that they should be, or you should just say you should be the physio, or you should be this, or you should be that.
So let me just
But
show you
that's the
something.
same point. But that's the same point I was trying to bring earlier on when I asked the question to him on Thursday. Having a medical person, someone getting first aid, every team should have someone who knows first aid. And that's
Yeah,
easy.
well,
That's not a qualified person. That's not have to be a doctor. That's something that every team, everywhere they're going, should have someone who knows first aid. Have them with them.
well,
Whatever
once
it
you
is,
have,
whatever,
and
yeah.
once you have, and again, if these teams / clubs have proper structure in place,
Yeah.
then you will have these things, because they will know that they will have committees, and they will have people who are earmarked for different roles within the club structure. As I always like to use Paradise, for example. When they travel with an entourage. They have what they call the equipment manager. I was surprised when I spoke to Paradise some time ago, and they talk about the equipment manager and this person and that person, and they even have someone who is a referral as a doctor. So in case of something, they can refer the person to a medical doctor,
I think
etc. But certainly
most
they
teams have
have,
that now, Mr. Bascom. But just to show this one, Mr. Bascom. Now we have the FA. We have, for the female, they have the U15, U17, U20, and senior team for female. For the male, we have the same. So we have 8 teams. But at any given point, we have probably 3 of those 8 teams out, right? And right now, I know that there's a lack of qualified physios. So let's say the FA have 3 teams out, and they have to find 3 qualified physios. That's a problem. If we have the netball team traveling same time as the football team, you have to find a qualified physio. That's an issue. If we have an athletic team traveling and they need a physio, so because of the COVID, no, it's not showing up. I think young persons should have used the opportunity now with the COVID and the downturn in terms of the athletics to upgrade themselves, because there is a shortage of qualified persons, right? Qualified persons to fill those positions. And I mean persons that are certified, persons that will be qualified at top level, not persons who we say, okay, we're saying they could do it because they've been around the team and they could spray an ankle, as you rightfully say, and they could come with a bag of ice and put on somebody. Because when you're traveling in these competitions, you need qualified persons and there's a shortage of that.
Yeah, that, I mean, the qualified thing is, for example, I can tell you, I've been around boxing, both locally, regionally, and international. And since I was part of boxing back in the late 80s and things like that, so it's almost imperative that a medical person be ringside when you have a boxing tournament. Amateur, whatever it is, it's imperative that a medical person, and in most cases in Grenada, for example, it used to be a doctor, must be, and to an extent, they will have a nurse as well, and I'm just talking about amateur fights, right? And things like that. So it's imperative. You can ask the question too. Could you imagine, having a swimming tournament and no one around in the swimming tournament can perform first aid, or, things like that. So in case someone has some problem in the pool, yes, you might be able to dive and pick the person up and whatever and swim or whatever it is, but who can perform first aid? So it's important for these sporting organizations to understand that, and a lot of, again, is not necessarily on the associations. Yes, they have a role to play, but it should be because you don't expect, for example, football, that okay, Fontenoy playing Paradise and GFA must have someone there to do that. It's imperative why Fontenoy cannot have its, a medical person, and Paradise has its own medical person, whatever it is. Yes, if it comes down to probably the national final or whatever it is, I could understand that. But the teams should see it as their responsibility as well to have personnel who are certified and who are trained to be with their team. That basically the people know, they know the players, They may know, for example, that this player has usual asthma attack, for example. They have some sort of medical history of their players, and it's not someone who doesn't know and then may do something and, not aware and et cetera, et cetera. So it's very important that they do.
I hear you're mentioning Fontenoy United.
I use it as examples.
Yeah, I think in that aspect, I'm providing that service. There is someone who has been around the team for a number of years, and he has been providing that service for the team. Saj, I'm not sure if you know Saj.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, Saj has been providing that service for Fontenoy United for a number of years, being the person providing the medical and so forth. He's been there since in around folks days, and he's still there working with the younger ones, the Simo and the Kendrick, and who is around the team. So I know they have someone who has been there and is providing that service. The other teams, we have seen improvements in that aspect, where the other teams have persons that are medically trained, or they would send someone to do the basic training and so forth, because the teams cannot afford to have hire a doctor to be there every time, but they have persons I know that they will send and do training and so forth. The FA provide also some form of training for persons on the team and so forth. I know Dr. Martin is associated with
Dr. Francis Martin. Let me just get some comments. We have another 10 minutes on the program, so I remember when Alana John is saying that's the mom of Nazio John. I remember when I went to Cayman in 2019 for Carifta Games, Nazio had to stop one of the athletes from eating French fries and ice cream right before a race. The athlete did not know he should not do that. So these are things that an academy can teach these young athletes. Educating the athletes is part of their preparation. So we do see that and hear that so often that and I can tell you, I have seen it at the national level of the football team, national senior level, the football team, where coach has to intervene. And you shouldn't be a coach, but you should have probably a nutritionist and somebody who will have to tell the players, hey, leave that for after the game. They were, going to the mess hall, to the dining room, and, basically loaded, and you have a game within the next 2-3 hours, and they have to say, hey, listen, you can do that after the game. But you can have a meal, you can have a snack, but not what you were doing there, or not what you're doing there.
But Mr. Bascom, the first academy is home. Home has to be the first academy, because that's where they come interaction. They get the interaction with their parents, who have to instill some of these things in terms of discipline, in terms of the nutrition and so forth. Because you could be doing what you teaching them in the academy, Mr. John. You could be doing your best, but when they get home, if they're eating what is available, then it comes like you're fighting a battle, because you're telling them, look, you have to eat this, you can't eat this, and you can't. But when they go home, sometimes the circumstances wouldn't permit them to even eat healthy, right? And that's where the academy comes in also. But home also has to be an academy.
I agree with you, and being a national athlete and you travel, sometimes you're so excited to be there. Some of the kids so excited to be there, they want to try everything they see. I'm
Now you
guilty
see
of that.
things that you didn't even know.
So I hope the structure of them eating prop have to be a part of the everyday in a regimen.
Yeah,
Because
but
when
that's
we
true.
go there, we forget that.
Yeah.
So academy will help in that aspect.
Yeah, I'm having a comment there from Mr. Adrian Lord, and Mr. Adrian Lord is well respected in the Caribbean in terms of the regional anti-doping organization, RADO, and he's saying there should have been discussion with a nutritionist long before the team left. Coaches, trainers, athletes, and parents should be involved in that educational program. And well said in terms of that. It's sometimes, you know, you get there, and as you say, it's all about, hey, it's first time. I may not get this opportunity again.
Mhm.
That's a lot of food. That's
Yeah.
a lot of this and that.
I
And as
I never
Mr.
tried
Lord,
shrimp. I never
right,
tried shrimp before,
right,
so I see
and
shrimp now, so I eat
yeah,
shrimp.
and Chinese food and this, and as Mr. Lord is saying, that discussion should be a discussion that should have taken place long before, and back at with the parents, with the coaches, and it's all part of the educational program. Again, you might sum it up in terms of an academy or whatever it is you may want to call it, but it's part of the educational program in having these sportsmen and sportswomen understand all about the nutrition. And thanks, Mr. Lord, because it's
But
all
Mr.
about things
Bascom,
about regarding anti-doping and all these things as well.
Mr. Bascom, are we being realistic in terms of knowing the economic situation that we are in now? Are we being realistic in terms of this, the nutritionists and the athletes eating properly? And sometimes we have to look at the circumstances that some of these athletes are operating under.
Well,
Easy to tell them, as I said before, it's like, okay, you're supposed to eat this, you're supposed to eat that, this healthy for you. But then when they go home, and their parents that could afford to do that. There are parents who could have invest money, time, and so forth in their kids. But what about the majority of athletes don't have that kind of support. So you're asking them to do something that realistically they can't
well,
do.
yes or no, eh? But as Mr. Lord was saying, it's an
No.
educational program, eh? But when you look at it, there'll be those who might put the KFC over, the yam and the plantain and the provision and things like that. So, and I know the provision, well, in many cases, more affordable than the KFC because in some cases we'll have to pay a bus to go to, to wherever to get your KFC and blah blah blah. But the provision is there. I'm just saying that in the context of knowing what is affordable and what is thing. But
If I
yes,
could interject in a little bit.
educational part of it.
If I could interject, you said something about do they eat properly, and I started eating bad when I came to the States. I thought it was bad what I was eating at home. Then get to realize these are the stuff that was actually needed. We eating all the processed food and stuff we got here. Back home, we don't have that. So you actually are eating better. The education comes where it needs to know what is it good for. During the season, what are you preparing for? You don't want to eat food that would naturally have you sluggish and stuff like that. You want to eat stuff that's naturally going to be broken down quickly. You get the antioxidants from the natural fruits and the fresh vegetables and stuff you're going to eat. We have abundance of that at home. But people think eating fig is for poor people thing.
Yeah, but
So they want pasta. And
you're
that's not
speaking
good
there,
for
right?
center.
And you're speaking there, and you have just gone into a different aspect in terms of, and that's an aspect that we don't look at the science aspect of it. Most
Yes.
of our athletes are just operating on their raw talent, and they've been trained to, and sometimes a lot of the methods that I use are old methods. But when you
But
come to the science of it, at least they are not aware of the science of why I'm doing this, and this the new technology, the new way that in terms of training. I'm not sure Mr. Sylvan could assist me there. I see you shaking your head like yes. The
I'm sure he
science,
can. I'm
the
sure he
actual
can.
science we get now is no longer put 4 cones on the ground and run and go here and go there. There's a science to it, and I think that is where we are being left. They have been left behind, Mr. Bascom, in terms of the science. I'll give you a joke. I live at Busheju, and Mr. Bascom, there's a Busheju playing field out there. When we had the U17 World Cup, and we had all the different countries coming to train, and I saw Canada. I think Canada was training. And when I look at the amount of equipment that was placed on that field for that one team to train, first time I've ever seen so much equipment. And when I looked at how we were training, and I looked at the equipment, I'm like, wow, it's like, and there's this disparity in terms of out there and here. And I have to commend Mr. Joseph, Mr. Chenny Joseph, for this. I saw a difference in terms of the training for the national team with him bringing in the new coach, in terms of the international coach. And there are some who said that because the FA got the international coach, you see them investing in terms of equipment. And so, first time I've ever seen so many coolers on one field. We had tents, we had security, we had new equipment, and so forth. I'm not sure if it was because of the new coach and staff or if the FA would have invested in that. But it just goes to show that when you step up in terms of the coaching staff, you also have to step up, because I'm thinking and I hope that this would continue. But the science and all of that, we're lacking there. And Mr. Sylvan, I'm not sure if you want to support me on that.
No, most definitely, and I agree with you. But one thing I want to say is that we want to do the same thing year after year, hoping we get different results. So new things have to come in. So they have to have those new things. The nutrients is very good, and the athletes have to know that now, because the food that we have out here, they come into the Caribbean. They coming slowly. It's coming slowly. So if they don't know, and we educate them on that. Those who are serious, those who want to take their sport to another level. When they're off season, they could eat certain things and so forth. Like I tell myself now, I'm done with the Olympics. I'm done with competing. I'm done this, so I can eat all the junk. And I'm saying, my goodness, there's a reason why I never did this stuff. It's not good for me. So, so we just have to educate them. That's why most of the time you see a lot of athletes, after they're done, they say they're getting heavy, because they start eating stuff they couldn't eat before. No, they say, well, I'm done now. Let me enjoy now. But you're totally fine. But then we have to be moving with the way the sport is today. And the way these guys, listen, Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, they train a very long time to get what they want to do. Some of our kids today, they watch it today, they want to go try it in the afternoon. They just seen it on TV. So it's more TV football now. They don't want to put the work in, you understand? And to put that work in, they need those technology stuff. They need those little things that we don't use. We have to still, I still use training I learned when I was in Grenada in primary school and in high school. I use those trainings still today, some of it, and it's very helpful. But then there are certain areas where I have to go into the newness of what's happening today. I have to go into how things are moving today. How we want to get over here. We got to move with what will get you over there. Well, move it what will get you over there. So we can't stay in one place. We have to move with the technology. There's one with no shoes. Now you got to wear spikes. Can't go out there with no shoes no more. Not much race around with no shoes on. I can't do the same thing, hoping to get results to get me on another level. So it has to be different. You're talking about the weather is different. The weather is not like when we're growing up. It's more hot now than ever. It's hotter now. It's colder now. I'm in Canada. I haven't seen fall yet. They say we're in fall. It jump from summer to winter. It's getting cold. We have to change. So we have to move now. Are we still staying inside and train? Or now it's time to go inside and not staying outside because it's getting cold. And then what the cold can do for your body. There's a lot of little things that we have to adapt with and move as things going. But the newness is something that have to be done.
Okay. Well, we lost Martin. Hopefully he will be back, but we're getting ready to wrap up. But I want to give Fernando the opportunity to make some closing comments there, and probably to give me an idea too, or give us an idea rather, on Nazio and the other athletes who are have started their training. Rico and Jared and Nazio, they all in the same college and what they have been doing.
Well, yeah, Nazio, Rico, and Jared, they have been doing tremendous. I mean, the coach is so happy with the way they have performed, especially Jared and Rico. He's asking me right now. Well, I was gonna take two kids from Jamaica. Do you have two more athletes that I need? Can I get them by January? Based on their dedication, their performance, and just the way they handle themselves, that opened up room for two more athletes, and I'm gonna try to get them. We're working on getting them here by January. Well, they have the paperwork have to be by November 15th, I believe. So you see an athlete coming up, on a scholarship up here, and you're thinking it's just him. It's not just you. When an athlete, him or her, when they come, based on their performance, their dedication, that opens door for so many other people. Because you come here and you don't do good, the coach may be hesitant to give another athlete a chance. But that is not the case with Jared and Rico. I went to see them a couple weeks ago, and I'm really impressed with the way they conduct themselves on the training field, in the classroom. Also check their classes regular, and we have no issues with their grades. They passing all their classes, and they're good to go. So be mindful of when you come on a scholarship. First, you got to get your grades right, because without your grades, you ain't going on the track, period. And when you're on the track, the dedication and the hard work that you're putting out there is being noticed. You may just be in yourself, but the coaches are noticing you, and they're thinking, if I could get two more this runners like that, that'll set my program up right. So people, be mindful when you come, work hard, because it not only helps you, it opens doors for other athletes that's out there that may want that opportunity also.
Mm-hmm. And which college again, for those who might be
In
wondering?
Butler Community College in Kansas.
Right, Butler Community College in
In
Kansas.
Kansas. So
Okay,
by January, I'm hoping to have two more Grenadian athletes there
okay.
within that university.
Right. Rudian Toro is saying you talk a book there about footballers, and Lee Coffey was saying, good point, Martin. As for me, however, I take a very scientific approach towards my training, towards my team at Tanteen. Countless, he says, countless research have been done and continues to be done, and I've seen the benefits from such approach. And there's a comment, Chenny is saying, great program. Part 2 and 3 to be completed. Your guest did justice to today's mouth-watering session. Yes, Jenny, but you know what will happen thereafter. So many things were said in your favor that, you may fall out of favor and things like that. So, but, both Rudian and Martin, well, Martin in particular, because you were off for a couple minutes, but we getting ready to wrap up, and Fernando just gave his closing points there, and specifically on Nazio, Jared Sylvester, and Rico Moultrie. By the way, Rico once represented Grenada, but now he's representing the Bahamas, and these are other things that we can probably talk about another time. Hopefully, we'll be speaking more about athletes that continue to represent Grenada and not once represented Grenada, as in the case of Rico. It's a sad situation, but, that is something that we hope does not repeat itself. On to you now. Sorry.
I want to personally commend a young man that Nathaniel Mack, former student of GBSS. I think he would have gone on to UTEC, Jamaica, and now he is in he would have gotten a scholarship in the US.
It's in Arizona.
Right. That young man is what I want to find, but his circumstances did not.
Yeah, that's it. The idea. The circumstances, with his background, his family.
Exactly, his family. It didn't hinder him. I taught him personally, and even in his academic, he has exceeded my expectations. He has put in a lot of work in academics, and he's reaping the reward now. To get his story, you have to sit and personally talk to him, and he would give you his story. His story is one of perseverance, right? And I think if Nathaniel can make it there, he would encourage others. Any other athlete can. You know what I'm saying? Because I think you're aware of his personal story also.
Yeah.
Josh Botang, I want to talk about Mr. Botang, who he's another one that I taught him at Happy Secondary and also taught him at Grenada Boys Secondary. And I think that we have to commend these athletes. We have to, because we see them out there excelling and we don't know where they came from, their background, their struggles and so forth. And we give some of the athletes the idea that it's a bed of roses, you just get through with a scholarship, and when you go up there, everything will be easy. And Mr. John is speaking about it in terms of your academics and so forth. So that's my piece on those two athletes. There are many others that I could mention, but I just want to highlight Nathaniel because I know of his
and something I really I've spoken to him a couple of times on a personal note, and I think is one person who he has endured quite a lot. He has never given up. He has encountered so many difficulties, challenges, and as we understand, if you know his background, family, etc., you'll be surprised to know and how he has been able to make it through. I know Lee, Coach Lee will be very happy to know that's Lee Coffey. Sorry,
yes,
be happy to know that that he is moving forward. And he was injured for a while, but he went back to Grenada, rehabilitated, continued to train, and he's doing pretty well. Let's go to Rudian now for some final words. As Chelly says, part 2 and 3 to be continued.
It was truly a great program today. Mr. Alexander, I just want to say that out in universities, even in colleges, the programs are there for young athletes, and anyone who's listening, you send your athletes away abroad, they are well taken care of. It's different now. The coaches are there; they have everything. My athlete right now is on a break because it's funny, she was losing weight, and they didn't notice that because she happened to catch COVID. So you cannot throw things off for our program. And everything is there for her. And they don't speak to the coach. They have a doctor. And so, sometimes a coach can come and push and say, and push. No, the coaches have nothing to do with it. They send them to the doctor, they send them to the nutrition, they send them to everything else. Have nothing to do with coaching. So the system now is built to prepare them to get her back because she have to gain another 10 pounds within a month, So the system is there. Another thing, Mr. John, you said it very well. One of the reasons why I have a lot of connection with schools is because when I send the athletes, they represent me. I'm not taking credit, but they represent me. So the respect is there, and coaches, I get phone call. Hey, do you have an athlete? I need a jumper. I need a 400 meter, and I don't physically have it, but I can pick up the phone and I can call somebody out here and say, hey, somebody's looking for somebody. Do you want to contact them and so forth? The respect is there. I say the same thing too. When I went to the Olympics, I put on the Grenada colors. I'm representing Grenada, and it's not about Rudy. It's not about me. It's about Grenada. So we have to do that. So when you say the guys in them is doing very well, I commend your good work that you do and what you instill into them, that they're not only representing you, but they're representing Grenada. Just the name of Grenada, because if something go wrong in the name, if they do something wrong, they're not saying your son. They're saying that Grenadian.
Grenadian athlete.
They're saying that Grenadian. That Grenadian. So when we go out there, we have to represent, even as all of us here, being out here, when I do something, yes, I'm a Canadian citizen, but then they won't say that Canadian person. They won't say that Grenadian. He's from Grenada.
Anything that is bad or wrong, they will say Grenadian.
They did throw Ben Johnson under the bus. He's not longer Canadian. He's Jamaican. So I'm just saying, and they just have to know that the system is there for them when they go abroad. When they're in school, the system is there, and I've seen it. That even when they don't have food or they don't have the money, there's a program set up for them to get things done. Even if it's a little job, if it's certain things, that system is there for them. And as well as when they go there, they got to know they're representing not just themselves, something bigger than themselves. And I commend the boys that are doing well. I can't wait to see what the season turn out to be.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that this program has been doing for the past few months is really putting people in contact with each other. And I know, Fernando, through this program, so many people have been able to get in touch with you. And so, Martin, here is the opportunity. As you've seen the faces now, so it's easy for you to make the contact with Rudy and Fernando. What I normally do, as soon as the program finishes, there's the exchange of information and whatever. So that is part of the networking and the exchange of information. So you have two persons there that you can rely on. You can, inquire, communicate with, and build a friendship in moving forward. Final word from
and just final thing, just before you go, my thing, as a coach, as a former Grenadian Olympian, as a track and field athlete, as a sportsman in general, I just want to help. It's not to do with money. They literally, if I have to coach my athletes, they are paying my mortgage. They are paying my mortgage, and they don't have it. Over the years, I'm coaching athletes who come from parents who do not have it. They don't have it, and it's hard. Just a sad note, I had a girl who went to the University of Missouri. I'm getting a call this morning. Her brother was shot and killed, and is the mother's only son. And I know it's hard because the mother never had. She was like a daughter to me, because the mother never had. So I like I said, it's more than just that to me. It's about me giving and sharing and giving back.
Before I go on to Martin for his final comment, and I think Fernando, I know everyone is laughing because there's Toro. They're pretty. Toro is adding something, Yes, Toro, right? Okay. I taught Canadians that they can win medals in a sport other than hockey. Okay, Toro. Before I go on to Martin for his final comment, Fernando, there's something you wanted to add, I think.
One of the things I wanted to add is that Coach Rudiger, he's been helping me a tremendous amount. He doesn't take the credit for it, but we collaborate a lot on me improving my athletes also. So when my athletes out there representing, it's also a reflection on you. Mr. Martin, you could get my contact from Mr. Bascom, and feel free to reach out anytime. If I can't get the answer that you deserve, I'll find it for you. If I don't have it, I'll find the answer. But we need to come together and network where we can help each other. And I'll be happy to help just about anyone who actually is out there willing to listen or wants to help. They can contact me. I'm more than happy to help anytime.
All right.
Okay. So thank you very much, Mr. Sylvan and Mr. John, for the offer. I have to say thank you to. I think we should commend Mr. Bascom for the great job he has been doing in, getting the word out there, and helping the athletes and so forth. Mr. Bascom, I commend you. Continue to do the great job that you're doing. Also, well, I have to give you some. I'm not sure if you found out, but I think your team would have lost this morning, and my team won. So you get feeling last week.
I know. I wondered why it took so long for you to see, but that's all right. I wondered why it took so long.
There's only one Manchester. Only one Manchester. The real team.
I want to do it, but
yes. Yeah. Right. So I think you're doing a great job. Continue to do the great job that you're doing. You will not get the support from the masses, but the persons who you are helping, trust me, they appreciate the great job that you're doing. Continue to do it, and you are appreciated. For me, thanks for all the information from the guests. Thanks for all the whatever information was given. I will use it. I have been looking for persons who can have that link, because where I am, as Mr. Bascom would know, I'm surrounded by a number of athletes. The school which I am at, we have 800 plus boys, and you find students there that are talented, but they are just looking for that, that next step when they leave, even in the football and the female football. So I will use both gentlemen to further the cause. And thank you again, both gentlemen. Keep flying the flag, keep representing us and making us proud. I will be in contact with both of you pretty soon. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks very much. And I know, listen, I have lost what I would say, a lot of friends because of that. I am not deterred. I continue to speak on behalf of our sportsmen and sportswomen. They need a voice, and I will continue to advocate, on that. I don't want to talk too much on that issue, but I will just continue doing what I need to do as it relates to sports and sports development. But I'm hoping that in the final analysis, it's to the benefit of our sportsmen and sportswomen. They deserve quite a bit, and I think in many respects they are shortchanged. There are a lot of people who take advantage of these athletes, sportsmen, sportswomen. My thing is that we'll still get a national sports policy, a meaningful national sports policy, I should say, that will show that our sportsmen, our sportswomen, our administrators, coaches, whatever, will have something as proper structure in place, finally, that will guide sports, guide the development of sports and bring it to the next level. And as Martin was saying, yes, I can give the score and probably do it as well. The BBC used to do it. Manchester City 0, Crystal Palace 2, Tottenham 0, Manchester United 3. That's all I could say for now. I'm not saying who won, who lost.
I don't, last week I couldn't speak like this last week.
Yeah,
last week I was getting this high five.
Yeah. Well, that's how it goes. And then we have, in a between, because we also lost the EFL and, all these sort of things, but penalty kicks and, all these sort of, semantics, as I would say, but it has been a very fruitful discussion, I would say, from you gentlemen. Fernando, always a pleasure, or even though you were a bit late, but, no doubt you brought a little into it as well. Rudy and Martin as well. And thanks to all those who have been part of the comments, Toro Deputy, Cleve Deputy, Chenny Joseph, Alana John, Adrian Lord, Dr. Adrian Lord, thanks very much for putting in your 2 pence and, quite a bit. Lee Coffey, Raul Garcia Jr., thanks very much. Very supportive, not just sports, but I realize you're very supportive of sports in Grenada, Raul. And I want to thank you as well, and Liz and all others who made their comments known during the special program. As it was an open discussion, we went the extra distance because I thought it was very interactive, and hopefully when we have another open discussion, I will no doubt invite you gentlemen again, because we may probably want to follow up on certain things that were said now and probably in a month's time to hear what it is. Probably we might be back playing football, more recreational sports might be back on. We might be hearing a little more about Nazio and others, and quite a bit more that we can talk about in our next open discussion 1 month from, well, I will say from today.
We could probably invite persons from the different
yeah, well, listen, the invitation is always there for, I mean, and as a disclosure, I'm glad you mentioned that, and let me make it clear. When the program just started, I wrote to every single national sporting association in Grenada, asking for them to be part of the program to discuss, giving them an outline of what it is. And few acknowledged and responded, and few participated. I must thank, off the start, it would have been the Grenada Football Association with Mr. Chenny Joseph, the Grenada Netball Association, then President Glennis Roberts, the Grenada Cricket Association with Mr. Dwayne Gill. And I think that is where we stopped. The others, I think one at the time acknowledged that they received it, even though they received it late. That was Perrin Johnson as the president of the Grenada Amateur Swimming Association of Gaza at the time. She's no longer the president. And they have not, no one else have, listen, I am okay with that. In fact, there are those, I must say, who acknowledge but regretfully decline. I could understand. We don't. It's not compulsory. It's just an invitation. Share your views, whatever it is, like that. So, and so be it. I think sometimes they gauge the reaction from the public and the questions they ask and whatever, and gauge that and determine whether or not they will be part of it. But listen, we're in this all together, and what is the ultimate objective? The development of sports in Grenada. Not necessarily ourselves, but to see the development of sports in Grenada, and more so for our young people there. I think it's more important helping our young people to see that probably through sports that they can, do something for themselves. And you use the Nathaniel Mark as an example, because it's so he's one that could have just say, hey, this is not for me, and could have just go the other direction. Okay. And again, I'm saying the time will come when probably we will speak to him and people will get an understanding of the circumstances, the sort of challenges. I know for some, hearing him and seeing him and knowing the person that they know he was and went through and things like that, it might be a bit emotional for them. But I think it's an opportunity for others to understand, and probably as a motivation to others as well.
Johan Jeremiah is also another athlete that I want to comment on. Yeah,
very much. Before we leave, I just want to say that I want to express condolences to the family of the late Gilbert Murray Kaibo Griffith. I remember the story many years ago. The late Anthony Jericho Greenwich said that to me. He told me about it, that back in those days, and I think Jericho was attending the GBSS at the time, and this guy, I think was at SAS or whatever it is, came down to Tantine, roll up his pants, whatever, long pants he was wearing, roll it up, whatever it is, like that. So, and basically went and defeated Jericho in the high jump in Tantine. It's very unlikely that someone at that time and the time of Jericho could beat Jericho. But here was this guy who just came down, didn't really was, part of the competition, but decided, I think he was either he decided to or he was encouraged. He didn't have any, tracks or whatever it is, like that. So roll up his pants, went on and defeated Jericho Greenwich. That was many, many years ago. I remember Jericho telling me about this story, but he passed away recently. May his soul rest in peace. Gilbert Murray Griffith, also known as Kaibo, from St. Andrews. I think it was either SAS or Grenville Secondary School, but I more believe it was SAS. I think, it was SAS, because Grenville Secondary School wasn't there at that time.
In existence yet.
Yeah, it wasn't existing at the time. Yeah. So may his soul rest in peace. Yeah. Thank you very much once again, guys. Pleasure having you, and glad to see you, and hopefully we can reconnect in the very near future. Thanks once again.
Thanks for having me.
Okay, then. Thank you. Righto. Guys, very much so. That's those guys there. We had those guys linking us up in various parts of Fernando, who joined us lately, was in San Antonio, Texas, about 2 hours, hour and a half to 2 hours from here. I'm in Austin, and we had Martin Alexander in Boucheju in Grenada, and then we had Rudian Sylvan was in Toronto, Canada. Nice link up, and thank you to all those who provided the comments and made it so interactive. And Jenny, as you said, it's part one of probably a 3-part series. So we will be hopefully having something in the near future, and probably some different faces and different perspectives as well. But I want to thank you for being part of the program. The invitation is yours to join me on Thursday for another in our program. This time it will be at 8 o'clock in the evening for TalkSports, our 1 hour program. And then hopefully next Saturday we come around for our Saturday sports special. I'm Michael Bascom, wishing you a pleasant week.